Part 23. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 221. No one noticed. A black shadow that almost blended into the night passed through the gaps in the warships and various shipwrecks, like a ghost on the sea. Is this dark mode? Yilin lay on the night dial and looked at it curiously. A faint black mist completely enveloped Yilin and the motorcycle. This ability is beyond the scope of what science can explain. Well, unscientific, very unscientific. Dark night mode. Through the protective color of night, the mount and the user are hidden, silent, and can blend into the color of the night. Dark night mode is different from Yilin's skill following like a shadow. Following like a shadow is a skill that reduces the sense of presence, but visually, the presence of the form cannot be eliminated. But Dire's dark night mode, through some mysterious power, shrouded Yilin and the mount on her crotch, almost blending into the night, making it impossible to detect. Moreover, in the dark night mode, the roar of the engine is directly silenced, and even when driving on the sea, no sound is exposed. But obviously, dark night mode is not suitable for every occasion. As the name suggests, dark night, and only night, is the time when night dial can hide its figure. If it were daytime, a black thing driving on the sea would be far more conspicuous than if the dark night mode was not used. Another side effect is that in dark night mode, the engine power consumption is extremely low and the driving speed cannot increase. It feels like the energy saving mode is on. Haha, even the skill of ignoring terrain exists, and there is no scientific discussion value. Yilin shook her head and came to a conclusion. Originally, the mounts of the Knights of the Apocalypse were all life forms that were similar in shape to horses. But Yilin succeeded in matching with a motorcycle, but his mount turned into a nondescript existence. A bit weird, but also delicious. Soon. Using the dark night mode, Yilin lurked and drove in the dark, staying away from the sea. Yilin stopped at the sea surface to check the remaining satiety of night dial. Well, it's enough, no need to add wine. To be on the safe side, Yilin stuffed a few bottles of collection-grade red wine from Swan Castle in the storage space as backup oil, just in case of emergencies. If the satiety level drops to 0, not to mention whether the inexplicable favorability level will drop, at least the mount will not be able to drive. After 1 hour, Yilin started to feel a little bored. Even so, Yilin did not dare to let down her vigilance in the vast sea where boredom was inevitable. He finally realized what a woman's intuition is. That kind of peeping feeling is always there, which makes Yilin very uncomfortable. If it goes well. Another half hour passed. No disaster, very unexpected. Finally. Far away. Gradually the shadow of a ship appeared. On the bow of the ship, 2 dim lights were lit. Although the lights were dim, they were like morning stars at night, which refreshed Yilin and helped her find her direction. 10 minutes later. Yilin quietly stepped onto the deck. Ruth specially selected the most lazy lookout to be on duty tonight. Sure enough, on the lookout, one after another snores floated in the night, like the whispers of ghosts. Next to Ruth, there was Wang Tiandi, who looked like he was asking for credit. Yilin silently took out a prepared bone from the storage space and threw it into Guz's mouth. Guz's brows instantly lit up with joy, his lips curled up into a mysterious smile. After dismissing the dog, Yilin looked around and found no one around. In the middle of the night, except for the night watchman, the other pirates went to the special dormitories below the deck to sleep soundly. Ruth chose a good time. Ruth and Yilin reunited after a long absence. The joy and excitement on their faces could not be suppressed, and their whole bodies were trembling slightly. Yilin's expression changed slightly. As soon as Ruth said a word, Yilin directly covered Ruth's big mouth. Don't think too much, use your hands. Yilin covered Ruth's mouth tightly. Make a gesture to silence her. Ruth looked confused. It's dark and windy this month, but there's obviously no one around, right? This is obviously a very suitable atmosphere for a picnic, right? Why don't you let people take credit? Who knows how hard it was for her to pretend to be a skeleton gentleman during these days. Let's talk after we go in. Yulin ignored Ruth's random thoughts and forcibly dragged Ruth into the room. The dog thought for a moment that the cool breeze at night might ruffle his coat, so he followed into the room wagging his tail. Click, the door is locked. Yulin closed the window tightly. Calypso's eyes may exist everywhere in this sea. Besides, Yulin directly peeled off the equipment from Ruth's body. Ruth. There were no other skull-shaped objects in the room. After getting ready, Yulin no longer felt the feeling of being spied on, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Huh? What are you doing in bed? Yulin saw that Ruth had already wrapped herself in a quilt on the bed, and glanced at him with bright eyes. She immediately couldn't laugh or cry. Get up and take that thing out. Ruth didn't understand the meaning of Yulin's series of weird actions at all, but under Yulin's threatening eyes, she didn't dare to mess around and took out the tarp bag from under the bed. Are you sure you haven't opened it? Ruth's mouth flattened. I do think so. But dash. As she spoke, she nuzzled at the dog at her feet. The dog raised his head, biting the bones in his mouth and unable to laugh, so he raised his paws, broke off two of them, and barely made a V gesture of victory. Yulin. Ruth. Unexpectedly, with the structure of Wang Tiandi's claws, he could actually make such a weird gesture. But that's not important. Yulin silently gave Wang Tiandi a thumbs up and looked away from Wang Tiandi. In his hands was an ancient tarp bag. The cloth bag was wrapped tightly with ropes around and around. But under the ravages of time, the outer tarpaulin has been damaged to a certain extent. Fortunately, Captain Jack seemed to be more cautious back then, so he used a tarpaulin with more layers than the woman's clothes to wrap her up airtight. Yulin smiled and began to unpack the package happily. This is the courier that Ruth and Guza found after a lot of hard work, so they must be treated with caution. Half dismantled. Yulin suddenly remembered something equally important and quickly reached out to Ruth. Compass. Ruth's face changed slightly and she lowered her head. But my curse. Don't worry, I won't shirk what I promised you. Don't you still know what I am like? I just know it so well that I can't believe it. Ruth didn't dare to say these words, and hesitated for a few seconds. Seeing Yulin's expression gradually tightening, she reluctantly took the compass off from her tight chest. This compass is an epic prop. It has completed its mission on Ruth, and Yulin took it back to the storage space without ceremony. Seeing that the compass had been changed away by Yulin again using black magic, Ruth raised her head and looked at Yulin eagerly, but stopped talking. While unpacking the bag, Yulin lowered her voice and whispered, I never lie to people. Ruth. So Yulin changed her approach to a more convincing one. At least, I didn't lie to you this time. The curse on you will be broken, but not now. When? Ruth was stunned. Susu. Finally. The package is completely unpacked. Yulin smiled happily, at the most suitable time. In front of Yulin, two tridents exuding ancient aura appeared in front of the two people and the dog. Although Wang Tiandi is a dog, he is still an apostle after all. When it comes to the main mission, he does not take it lightly. While gnawing on the bones, he brings the furry dog's head close to him. Yulin, huh? Emperor Wang Tian. Ruth. The trident in the cloth bag had been hidden in rum for many years. When it reappeared in the sealed room, the two people and Guzi had different reactions. A trident is indeed a trident. It was just a little unexpected. Yulin's face was expressionless, and she gently held the trident head, and half of the long handle in both hands. This trident is broken. 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 These two words echoed in Yulin's mind. What the hell? Regarding the attributes of the halberd head and the long handle, Yulin emerged one after another. Poseidon's trident head. Grade damaged. Durable. Effect. Instructions. Click to view details. Poseidon's trident stick. Grade damaged. Durable. Effect. Instructions. Click to view details. Yulin. When Yulin saw the attribute descriptions of the head and the stick, she understood everything instantly. It turns out that everything is the fault of Jack Sparrow. No wonder all the curses of the sea return the dead in a stronger form. No wonder women are not welcomed by Dahai. It turned out that it was Jack Sparrow who went to retrieve the broken trident with his own hands. He glued it halfway and found that there was no glue, so he ignored it. As for the explanation of the three-pronged stick, it was even more outrageous, and it was so outrageous that Yulin could not accept it. How can women all over the world be made to bear this responsibility? There are many thin cracks on the head of the trident, and between the cracks, there is a strange liquid, which is crystal clear and green. I don't know where the glue was found. Yulin held a part in each hand and was tangled in the room. Ruth was already confused. She had never opened the waterproof bag, and she didn't know why the trident was broken as soon as she opened it. None of your business. Yulin lowered his head. Even without looking at the attributes, Yulin would not suspect that it was broken later. After all, when she first got hold of the cloth bag, Yulin felt that the shape of the cloth bag was too short and did not fit in with the legend of the trident. Ruth looked strange. Didn't the legend say that the trident was stuck together? Why is there still a curse? Yulin raised her head and glanced at Ruth. After thinking about it, I decided not to tell the truth to poor Ruth. After Yulin decisively slipped away from the Navy camp. Unlucky too, the chaos caused by the explosion gradually subsided. Tiramisu stared at the roll of parchment in his hand strangely. After hesitating for a moment, he finally couldn't hold it back and called Gu Tianqing out for an explanation. Soon, Gu Tianqing came to the deck. The movement on the deck was so exaggerated, Gu Tianqing already knew it when he was fingering the tarot cards. But when the very eye-catching parchment blood book was displayed in front of him like evidence in court, Gu Tianqing showed no expression, slowly opened the communication panel, and slowly typed a question mark to a certain damn woman. Gu Tianqing. The other party is busy, please do not disturb. Gu Tianqing. Tiramisu had a strange expression. Although she did not suspect that it was Gu Tianqing's hand, what she saw tonight was that if Gu Tianqing didn't give an answer, Tiramisu would probably have trouble sleeping all night. Gu Tianqing turned her palm over and slowly pulled out 3 tarot cards. They are Lover, Hermit, and Temperance. Tiramisu. Gu Tianqing explained with a smile, the divination results show, hidden lover, unspeakable love. Maybe Ms. Elizabeth has been secretly in love with me, oh, it's all that damn love. Tiramisu. The unsinkable. Yulin suddenly sneezed. He rubbed his nose, feeling a little strange, but he didn't take it to heart. The broken trident in front of her made Yulin heartbroken. The contract that Elizabeth Rin made with Calypso was: find Poseidon's trident, and she will prevent disaster from befalling Elizabeth Rin's forehead. At the moment when the contract was successfully signed, Yulin also received a curse, which was Calypso's gaze. But based on the information Yulin learned, this trident must be the key item to completely seal Calypso. Without the assistance of the trident, with the current skills, there is really no way to defeat Calypso. Each trial naturally has different strategies. It will undoubtedly be much more difficult to just use your fists to fight. With some helplessness, Yulin carefully examined the crystal clear marks between the cracks on the trident's head. It's like a gel-like substance formed by solidification of some kind of mucus. Some kind of glue? Is it that sticky? Wait, it looks like Yulin suddenly remembered that when he searched other pirate ships on Titaga Island, he found a lot of messy useless props, including several bottles of liquid, which looked somewhat similar to the slime on the trident. Thinking of this, Yulin didn't waste any time and quickly rummaged through her bag. Indescribable rosemary? No. Expired Sanji Shen oil? No. Eye drops that create perspective illusion? Neither. Unknown liquid? After rummaging through a pile of messy cards for a long time, Yulin finally found a piece of junk in the corner of the storage space that made him feel completely useless. In properties, there are only 3 words: unidentified. That is, it cannot be used. It's a pity that there is no skill like identification. Yulin put away the messy things and handed the tube of transparent liquid in Ruth's hand. She didn't dare to use it until it was tested. She just had a mentality that she wouldn't get pregnant even if she tried. Asked casually, "Look, what does it look like?" To identify unknown items, you may not really have to rely only on skills. Knowledge is also a powerful means of identifying unknown items. Ruth turned the suspicious liquid over and over in her hands for a long time, but she couldn't figure out the reason. Yulin snatched it back again, hesitating whether to find something to try. But there isn't much liquid in the small tube. Yulin has every reason to suspect that if the tube of liquid in her hand is really one of the key props that can restick the trident, according to Ta's usual style, the weight in the tube, it is very likely that it is just right and not a drop is extra. Once it is wasted, Yulin is likely to end up with the same fate as Captain Jack. It was just half sticky, causing the trident's wrath, and being cursed over and over again. It's not impossible. But now, with the help of Gu Tianking's strange ability, the Navy is about to find the location of the Demon King. The final scene is approaching, and Yulin has no time to find other props. Ruth was silent for a long time, and suddenly said, "How about, ask old Gibbs? He might know after living so long." Old Gibbs? Yulin was slightly startled. But the next moment, almost as a reflex, he opened the captain's panel and looked for old Gibbs's name in the crew list that he had not noticed for a long time. Found it? Old Gibbs's attributes were nothing special, just about the same as Charlie's. After all, he is older, which is normal, but Charlie's attributes are unusually low. But that's not important either. Yulin's eyes fell on the column of specialties. The wisdom of an old driver. An old pirate who has lived for several versions has rich experience and unique insights and experiences that others do not have. He may be able to provide unexpected help. Oh, the puzzle pieces are complete. 3 days later. In the foggy sea. Gu Tianqing stood at the bow of the boat, frowning. Since entering the foggy sea, everyone has been tense, fearing that a ghost will appear next to them. After all, this sea area is filled with all kinds of legends, which are extremely scary. Gu Tianqing counted with her fingers, oh no, counted the cards. Her expression was unpredictable. Tiramisu stood beside her, guarding Gu Tianqing. It seemed that he was afraid that Gu Tianqing would run away too. For some reason, since Elizabeth Lin jumped into the sea and disappeared, she always felt that something was wrong. The governor was bombed, and his contact was intermittent. The signal was not very good, which made Tiramisu uneasy. Should be there soon. Suddenly, Gu Tianqing quickly took out 3 tarot cards, with a hint of fatigue between her brows. Tiramisu slowly made a question mark. Doesn't it mean that tarot card divination cannot be performed too frequently, otherwise it will be inaccurate? Only then did she remember that this advisor from Japan, Kusushiro, had already gone through several suits of tarot cards in a short period of time, which surprised Tiramisu. Just in front. After Gu Tianqing said that, she suddenly turned around. And Tiramisu suddenly grabbed Gu Tianqing. Wait, where are you going? My respected general, do you want to go with me when I go to the bathroom? Haha, I don't mind. Gu Tianqing blinked. Besides, I think you won't be free either, so come with me to the toilet. As he spoke, Gu Tianqing pointed in a certain direction deep in the fog. A black shadow as tall as a hill appeared in the depths of the thick fog at some point. It was vague, like a mirage, or like a tall and mighty sea monster dormant in the depths of the fog. It was a sight to behold. Then fear came into my heart. Could it be? Tiramisu's pupils shrank suddenly, and she no longer bothered to hold Gu Tianqing's hind legs, rushed to the fence in a few steps, took out the telescope, and looked into the distance. Kaka. Around the warship, I don't know when, from time to time, fragments of shipwrecks hit the warship from the waves. Although it did not cause much damage to the specially reinforced warship, it was the kind that made people imagine the scene of beasts eating. The sound, in this weird atmosphere and the sea with countless legends, is chilling. That's it. Fire a warning shot. Everyone, get ready for war. Tiramisu shivered. The captain's cabin suddenly opened, and a figure with bandages all over his body and his eyes completely blindfolded, that is, the weird naval governor, stepped onto the deck step by step and walked to Tiramisu. It sizes, it's that guy, ready to capture, be sure to recover, fire, fire, fire. A strange electric sound came out of the governor's mouth. The sound was too low. The other Marines were far away and could not hear it clearly. However, Tiramisu did not show any surprise at this weird sound. Instead, he snapped at the governor. He gave a standard military salute and swore an oath loudly. Everything is for the glory of the empire. Give me my heart. Woo 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 woo. In the fog, the moment when the black shadow appeared, headed by the Lucky Two where Tiramisu was located, other ships had their sight blocked. If they normally used flags to transmit signals, it would undoubtedly reduce the efficiency. Direct firing was undoubtedly the smartest option. Practice. The other two admirals understood the moment they heard the sound of cannons coming from the fog. They ordered the boilers to be filled and the fires to be lit as quickly as possible, no matter the cost, so that the warship would have the strongest maneuverability. Sure enough, I'm hiding here. That guy. So many years. They searched hard. But ordinary warships are no match for that guy. The sea is littered with the wreckage of naval ships. You can imagine how terrifying its firepower is. But as long as they can successfully capture the Demon King, they will completely change the sea and the world, and let the flag of the Empire be planted in every corner of the sea. Their goal is the stars and the sea, the whole world. A mere pirate is nothing to worry about. All textbooks are just a cover. The true purpose of the Navy's existence is to hunt down that guy in the vast sea, that behemoth who escaped from the secret base 10 years ago and completely hid himself at sea as the Devil King. The ocean is too vast, and that guy is extremely cunning. If it weren't for the fact that Jack Sparrow's compass had disappeared all these years, which prevented them from finding traces of the Devil King, why would their navy have waited until today? Everyone looked up. The 9 warships were accelerating furiously. The fog seems to be dissipating. Ah! No one noticed, and the sky became darker and darker. The roaring sea wind sounded like a ferocious laughter in everyone's ears. No one even found it. A huge shadow, like a migrating school of fish, gradually rises from the depths of the sea. In the depths of the sea where the 9 warships are located, the shadow is getting bigger and bigger. Sea of mist. There's going to be a storm coming. Gu Tianqing stepped on a skateboard-shaped prop with both feet, and airflow was sprayed from the back of the skateboard, allowing Gu Tianqing to shuttle quickly through the ocean without any pause. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 222. In thick fog. On the deck of the Unsinkable. Yilin put on a complete set of Krypton gold equipment comfortably again, feeling refreshed. although no one can see through his expression despite wearing a mask. But after Ruth found a new set of clothes and disguised herself as Mate Lewis, she looked at the back of the skeleton gentleman from a distance, and she always felt that that mysterious back had something called a pang. Sax Sparrow regained his grip on the compass. Now that Uren is not in the Navy camp, in order to locate the Demon King, Uren can only temporarily lend the compass to Sax and locate the Demon King's location through the desire in her heart. This trial is coming to an end. Although Yulin made a rough calculation and found that there were still many branches that had not been explored in this trial, for the sake of safety, it was better to complete the main mission as soon as possible and return to the real world, so as not to mess up again and have long nights and dreams. There is far more moisture in this trial world than he imagined. If the plot goes deeper, it is very likely that the trial tasks will be upgraded to the point where it is impossible to complete. Nightmare difficulty is not the end. Yulin now has no shortage of death points, so there is no need to take such risks. The other pirates were quite surprised by the sudden appearance of a first mate. Obviously before this, the captain of the skeleton gentleman had done everything himself, so the first mate position was vacant and no one could take it. Charlie was even more surprised by the appearance of First Mate Lewis. But when he witnessed First Mate Lewis walking out of the captain's cabin with the haggard and vicissitudes of life, he instantly understood the truth and was deeply moved. Naturally, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only silently stare at the mysterious back of the skeleton gentleman in the distance and quietly give a like. Sure enough, a real man should know how to deal with men. Why are you looking for that guy? At this time, Yulin no longer hid and tucked beside Sax to prevent him from secretly hiding his compass, and asked. Sax looked at the compass needle and replied casually, "I'm looking for my father." On the side, the drunk old Gibbs suddenly raised his head and looked towards Sax. Yulin, huh? What does your father have to do with this matter? Sax shook his head. My father said before he left that as long as I can find that guy, I will be qualified to be the son of the legendary pirate Captain Jack Sparrow. Otherwise, he will never appear in front of me to meet me. Yulin. Ruth. Gibbs. This kid was obviously tricked by his father. Yulin and Ruth suddenly looked towards old Gibbs. Old Gibbs smiled and quickly lowered his head, avoiding the eyes of others and not daring to look more. Yulin was thoughtful. At this moment, Sax seemed to have discovered something. He suddenly took out his telescope and looked forward. Yulin perked up. At this time, no one can let down their guard. Strangely enough, old Gibbs seemed to have anticipated the purpose of Yulin and others. Apart from drinking rum, he didn't feel much fear. As for the other pirates, Yulin didn't dare to reveal his true purpose at all. Otherwise, he would probably scare these damn pirates into jumping into the sea, preferring to swim across the ocean rather than stay on this ship. But in the end, if everything goes well, Yulin will not need to use this crew, because the moment the mission is completed, he will return to the real world, and everything that happens in this world next will have nothing to do with him, Yulin. Huh. Thinking about it carefully, Yulin felt a bit of reluctance inexplicably. It's not that she was reluctant to leave Ruth's skillful skills, but the sailing life during this period did leave a deep impression on Yulin, a very interesting memory. After Sax reminded him, Yulin quickly took out a more professional telescope and looked in the direction that Xiao Sa was pointing. After a few seconds, Yulin put down the telescope with an expressionless expression. Sax looked shocked and stammered, "Ship, Captain, why is there a person standing on the sea?" No need to offend him. But, I said, don't blame him. But he's waving at us, he's fast. Oh, damn, here he comes dash. 1 minute later. Gu Tianqing pushed back her wet hair with a smile on her face, "Excuse me." Then Gu Tianqing looked at Yulin elegantly, smiled slightly, and said, "Charming skeleton gentleman." Yulin. Ruth. Sax, charming. Old driver Gibbs, oh. Yilin sighed helplessly, you can see through it but don't tell it, brother. Gu Tianqing, at this point, is there any point? Yilin chuckled, indeed not. Gu Tianqing, so, cooperation. Yilin thought for a moment, and Gu Tianqing said 4 words, but she probably could only believe one. Combine. Do. However, in fact, after Gu Tianqing performed a round of operations to suddenly increase the difficulty of the trial, the tasks of the 2 camps were merged into one, directly breaking the boundaries between the camps. Whether it is the pirate camp or the navy camp, they must face Calypso and the Demon King at the same time. There is no difference anymore. Therefore, the basis for cooperation does exist, and that is common interests. But the barriers to cooperation are also obvious. For the apostles, that is the distribution of benefits. In the final main mission, whoever can obtain a higher contribution will undoubtedly receive a higher mission evaluation. The settlement evaluation is very important for the apostle, after all, it directly affects the level of attribute value improvement. After thinking about it, Yilin smiled slightly, well, the Devil King belongs to me. Gu Tianking's expression remained unchanged and she whispered, no problem, then Calypso will be mine. In this world, Gu Tianqing seems to have not been idle either. He has also found out about the legend of Calypso, and even, made some contact with it. The boss was assigned instantly. But neither Gu Tianqing nor Yilin would take this distribution method seriously. It's just that no matter how they stumble behind their backs, the 2 of them will never fall out unless they are in a life or death situation. After all, everyone will eventually return to the real world. If they break up, there will undoubtedly be an enemy hiding in the dark, which is not worth it. As the saying goes, leave a fine line in everything so that we can meet again in the future. In Gotham City, Yilin also understood this truth. Finally, when facing the laughing bat, he gave the little fat man the initiative to choose whether to choose to fight the boss together happily, or to force Yilin to use his trump card to defeat everyone. The person and the boss are wiped out together. Thanks to the little fat man's path, he didn't take a narrow path in the end, otherwise he wouldn't be able to get a good wife like Suzayasu now. The 2 of them talked quietly, and the others looked at the 2 whispering people from a distance, feeling inexplicable, and there was an indescribable smell brewing in them. Ruth covered her forehead, oh, I feel like someone is going to be unlucky again. Sax couldn't agree more, nodding wildly. While he was silent for a few seconds for the stranger in front of the captain, he subconsciously reached into his arms, wanting to take out the lost compass and check the direction of the devil. And right now, Sax suddenly widened his eyes. Luo, where's the compass? The compass was lost again. Ship, Captain, my compass. Sax found that the compass he had been kicking in his arms had strangely disappeared again, and ran towards Yilin with a mournful face. Yilin's tone suddenly became serious, and she stretched out her index finger in front of the mask, shhh, wait, you listen. This turn was too rounded, and Yilin's voice was loud. In an instant, everyone fell silent and listened attentively. Rumble. Rumble. Everyone's expressions changed slightly. In the fog ahead, there was a faint sound of cannon fire in the fog. It's shelling. There are enemies ahead. There are enemies ahead. Xiao Sa informed the bad news as quickly as possible. The fog ahead. Gradually a large shadow appeared. It's all boats. Yilin was very familiar with the shape of the shadow. In just a few seconds, he determined that it was a Navy warship. Wait. Why is there one less ship? Yilin suddenly turned his head and looked at Gu Tianqing, whose expression was half smiling but not smiling, and thought thoughtfully, did you trick your teammates into it too? Gu Tianqing shook her head, we have never had teammates. But Gu Tianqing's tone was slightly condensed, They should have corresponding means. I don't know if it will be useful. As the unsinkable approached in that direction, the sound of gunfire and the whistle of the warship became increasingly clear in the thick fog. Yilin and Gu Tianqing looked at each other and nodded slightly without any trace. Apparently, they had an idea. To give a simple analogy, one of the boss has appeared now, and the friendly NPCs are aggressively attacking the boss. However, since it is a nightmare-level trial, the tower will never allow it. Yilin and Gu Tianqing hide aside and fight until the end. If they continue to hide, something will happen sooner or later, forcing the two of them to a dead end, to the point where they have to take action. Rather than being so passive, it is better to take the initiative while the friendly cannon fodder is still alive, which may increase the success rate of killing and reduce risks. After all, this is a nightmare-level difficulty. It should never be taken lightly. If you hesitate, you will lose. Captain. Interrupted by Yilin, Xiao Sa even forgot that he had lost his compass for a moment, and the tension in his heart was all written on his face. He pointed with trembling fingers in several other directions in the fog, holding up the telescope, looking left and right. Just when Sax reminded him, something happened again. From various places in the fog, whether it was a coincidence or for other reasons, there were other ships passing through the fog and coming across the sea from all directions. Those ships looked majestic, their sails were beating and they were moving at full speed. Yilin's pupils narrowed slightly, and she focused her eyes to look more carefully. Although the pattern of the flags on the mast cannot be clearly seen, in the telescope, the color of those flags is black. It's the skull and crossbones flag. Pirate's skull and crossbones flag. It's a pirate ship. Why would other pirate ships come to join in the fun at this time? Gu Tianqing smiled slightly. The time has come. Yilin lowered his head and said nothing. Wearing a mask, Yilin didn't need to worry. Gu Tianqing was able to penetrate the mask and see his innermost thoughts clearly through his micro-expressions. If you really have such awesome perspective skills, can you still use them in a place like this? Ruth, from now on, you must not go near that place again. At the last moment, Yilin directly called out Ruth's real name. After all, this farewell might be forever. What about you? Ruth was startled. Goodbye. Yilin chuckled, without nostalgia or hesitation. The buff had already been improved. With the abundant gain, Yilin's attribute values reached their best state under normal conditions. Go, go, go. Gu Tianqing and Yilin jumped off the deck in almost no particular order. Woof. An almost forgotten dog Shadow had just finished gnawing the bones, and in high spirits, it followed the two men and jumped into the sea. While the two jumped into the sea, Gu Tianqing quickly drew the card and then crushed it. A jet skateboard from an unknown source was stepped on by Gu Tianqing's feet in midair and fell into the wave. Yilin also pulled out a card, crushed it secretly from an angle that Gu Tianqing couldn't see, and then activated the summoning skill at the same time to summon Night Dire. Hiss. There were no overly gorgeous special effects in the process of summoning Night Dire. In the void, smooth flowing textures appeared out of thin air. Then, at the end of the light, countless square light groups of different sizes reunited at the location designated by Yilin. After the light faded, the dark and ferocious-looking Night Dire mount appeared on the sea. The reason why this was so unnecessary was that in front of Gu Tianqing, Yilin did not want to expose the fact that Night Dire was actually a summoning mount. Always have an extra hand for everything, just in case. Sure enough, Gu Tianqing just took one more look at Night Dire's appearance and exclaimed, "The appearance is pretty good." After Yilin rode the nightmare, he lowered his head and glanced at the skateboard Gu Tianqing's feet were on, and also smiled, "Well, yours is not too small." Gu Tianqing. Boom. After Yilin rode the nightmare, a black shadow fell from above. Like the return of the king, the dog landed precisely on the front of the car, sitting cross-legged. Very cool. I feel that it would be more comfortable to wear a helmet with goggles on the dog at this time. Gu Tianqing has already heard many legends about the skeleton gentleman. When he saw Emperor Wang Tian, he took a deep look and didn't ask any questions. Even if I ask, I won't get the answer. Why ask knowingly? Gu Tianqing smiled slightly. Before setting off, I secretly performed a divination. This time we should be safe. Yulin, haha. Believe it or not. You must have divined something for yourself. Don't use the word we. Having said that, Yulin was quite wary of Gu Tianqing's precognitive abilities. After Gu Tianqing finished speaking, he stepped directly on his skateboard, taking the first step and rushing into the thick fog. Yulin nodded. If Gu Tianqing didn't do this, Yulin had this intention. The map is so big, there is no need for two apostles to squeeze together to fight the boss. Since we are wary of each other, it would be better to go our separate ways. Yulin drove the car slowly. The card I just crushed was another bottle of magic water. He sat silently on the night dyer for 30 seconds. 30 seconds later. The Chinook value is restored to full value. After preparations were completed, Yulin set off again. This time, due to the role-playing mode, the recovery ability brought by the Dionysian factor lost its effect. If you are not careful, you may be beaten to death by the boss. The Navy had used the firepower of 9 warships, and after Gu Tianqing left, 1 more ship was missing in the blink of an eye. It is conceivable that that Demon King cannot be easily captured by a certain person or a certain ship. That's why Gu Tianqing led the Navy here as the last cannon fodder. Wang Tiandi, it's the last minute, should you give me some strength? Emperor Wang Tian began to think again. Yulin. A few seconds later, Wang Tiandi grinned, turned the dog's head, and stretched out his paw towards Yulin. Snapped. 1 hand and 1 claw clapped together. Well, this is a trustworthy ally. After all, it is simple and easy to understand, but it is a bit silly. Rumble. This time, Yulin did not need to turn on the dark night mode, and instantly turned the accelerator to the bottom, and the night dyer roared like a beast, resounding throughout the sea. Night dyer, the ferocious beast comes out of the cage. The night dyer at full speed was like a dark light, cutting through the vast ocean. All the hair on the dog's body was blown to the back of the dog's head, making a rustling sound. The black light reached the depths of the mist in the blink of an eye. Rumble. In the fog, artillery fire continued, row after row of shells, as if they were free of charge, wildly blasting towards the dark ship Shadow in the depths of the fog, and from the black ship Shadow, also not to be outdone, a row of platoons of shells were fired at other warships. The Demon King is a ship. Yulin squinted his eyes as he drove the night dyer through the thick fog. Everyone on the remaining 8 warships was very nervous. They were busy dealing with the legendary Demon King and had no time to pay attention to the night dyer traveling on the sea. From other directions around the navy, there were several pirate ships flying skull flags. Taking advantage of the wind, they quickly approached and surrounded the 8 warships without fear. Those later pirate ships were clearly coming for the navy. Who is it? Wang Tiandi, Yulin, and Gu Tianqing have all entered the battlefield at this moment. When the shipwreck bay was destroyed, Nicholas Zhao suffered heavy losses. It was hard to say whether he would survive, let alone pull a new fleet out to defeat the Demon King. The rest is Indiana Jones. Why do you always feel that this name sounds familiar? I don't know if the map this time is too vast, and the level of the apostles is too low, and they are restricted by their movement methods. At the end of the trial, there are still apostles who have not yet appeared in the trial. Boom 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 boom. There was no nonsense or preamble. After the approaching pirate ship sneaked into the range of the cannonballs in the thick fog, without saying a word, it resolutely launched a bombardment at the 8 nearby warships. In Yulin's opinion, there was something tragic about using her arms to twist her thighs. What a hero! At this time, you still dare to take part. As for lucky number 2, on the deck at this time, the Navy fell into brief chaos because of the sudden appearance of pirate ships around it. It's pirates. Damn pirates. Wait. That flag. It's the ship of the pirate new generation Indiana Jones. Tiramisu and the other 2 generals all had dark faces. How could it be at this time? Damn it. Why would they enter the Sea of Mist at this time? Admiral, what should we do? What should we do? Tiramisu looked behind him without a trace, and glanced at the bandaged and silent governor, and said coldly, "Don't worry about them. Their backward artillery shells can't penetrate our armor at all. People on the deck, pay attention to pirates the shelling. If you can, leave some people to load the shells, and the others, board the damn pirate ship and engage in a boarding battle. If the ship battle is about ships and cannons, then the side battle is about troops, equipment, and everyone's combat power. By then, the number of victims will definitely skyrocket in an instant. After all, in the sea at this moment, the Navy is under attack from both sides. But the Devil King, who has been hiding in the thick fog, keeping a distance from the Navy, and has not even revealed his true face, is the goal that the Navy has been pursuing for many years. Even if it is attacked by pirates, the Navy will never give up. For the glory of the Empire. For the future of the Empire. Giving our hearts. The Navy is in high spirits. After all, the governor is on an expedition with the Navy is undefeated. The 3 admirals, as well as the mysterious governor, all gathered on the Lucky 2 at the same time. Other warships can be commanded by the adjutant. When necessary, it is not impossible to throw them out and sacrifice them. For that goal, any sacrifice is valuable. As long as we can successfully capture the devil in the fog, the demon king that sailed out of the secret base more than 10 years ago, everything will be worth it. Go, go, go. The 3 generals on the Lucky 2 did not send a signal to other warships, so they used all their power and accelerated towards the huge black shadow in the thick fog. Go, go, go. One ship leads the way. The fighting at the scene was extremely fierce. Within just a few minutes, the pirate ships, which were quietly approaching from all sides through the thick fog, fearlessly engaged the naval soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. In addition to the other warships on the Lucky 2, Yelin's old acquaintances, Pop and Nolando, were also on board. After all, they had been planning for the Navy for many years, and in order to restore the glory of the Empire, after acquiring that magical and great governor, they had waited for more than 10 years, and finally waited for this day. If the legendary pirate Jack Sparrow's magical compass hadn't disappeared, they wouldn't have to wait until today. Waited for a generation. Even the Navy of the first generation that planned it had many retired people, but they were also paying close attention to the matter. All in order to successfully capture the devil. The senior officials in the Navy actually knew the true face of the Demon King. It was a magical ship, a ship that was forcibly broken out from the island of the Navy's secret base. That ship contained real technological secrets. As long as it could be captured, by the time we get to that magical ship, the Empire's technological level will have greatly improved. Spreading the legend of the Demon King in the sea, spreading the fear of the Demon King, and allowing pirates to gallop in the sea to a certain extent are just to have more eyes to find that damn Devil King's ship. Just pirates are nothing to be afraid of. In front of this specially reinforced warship, kill, kill, kill. In the crowd, Lieutenant General Pope held a broadsword and took out the latest type of repeating flintlock gun from his back. This is the latest scientific product. Although it is not as good as the only weapon of the 3 generals, this higher-end firearm than the traditional flintlock gun can undoubtedly shoot the pirates into a sieve, no doubt. Suddenly, Pope's eyes widened again. Etc. Why again? But that's not important. Including Pope, after the handover from ship to ship, there were waves of terrible and weird laughter on the pirate ship, as if coming from the abyss of hell. One after another, strange-looking pirates appeared on the bow of the ship. They all have pale skin, and their eyes have no pupils, leaving only the white of their eyes. There was almost no intact clothing on the pirates' bodies, only tattered strips of cloth hanging on them, barely able to cover their key parts. What frightens the Navy the most is that the pirates on the opposite side are covered with traces of patchwork from head to toe, as if they were forcibly pieced together with countless corpses, and some even have the tentacles squirmed, and drops of strange-smelling green mucus dripped onto the deck. Ghost, ghost, ghost. Someone screamed, breaking the brief silence. At the same time, Gu Tianqing rode the jet skateboard and nimbly landed on the deck of one of the warships. Because the scene was too chaotic, Gu Tianqing logged in silently, and no one reacted for a while. With no expression on his face, he quickly walked up behind a lone Marine and gently patted the Marine on the shoulder. Huh? Counselor Amakusa Harushiro, why are you dash? The words are not finished yet. Gu Tianqing smiled and said, oh, give your heart for the glory of the Empire. Navy soldier. 1 minute later, Gu Tianqing skillfully used a delicate skinning knife to take out the still slightly trembling heart of the naval soldier. The scene is difficult to describe. Gu Tianqing looked as if she was at home, with the same expression. He held the heart carefully and then opened his clothes. Under the clothes, Gu Tianqing's body was strangely black and withered, and blood vessels that were darker than his skin color were clearly visible on his skin. And on Gu Tianqing's weird and terrifying chest, where the heart was, there was a hole the size of a fist, but not a drop of blood came out of the hole. Gu Tianqing put her hand deep into the hole with an expressionless face. Piaget, Piaget, Piaget. A heart that was black and shrunken like rotten wood was taken out by Gu Tianqing and crushed into pieces. Gu Tianqing quickly replaced it with a fresh one. Only then did Gu Tianqing breathe a sigh of relief. He opened the panel and looked at it for more than 10 seconds. If anyone else could see Gu Tianqing's face at this time, they would definitely be frightened by the terrifying scene in front of them. The curse column is actually densely packed with various curse entries, with no end in sight. Gu Tianqing alone is actually burdened with a curse. Huh, this curse is too troublesome. After replacing the heart, Gu Tianqing smiled slightly again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 223. Sea of Mist. A change from the usual silence. Completely ignited by all kinds of gunfire and screams. Yilin has 2 goals. Calypso. Demon King. Yiren was not worried about how to seal Calypso. The problem now was, Yiren did not have exact information about the legendary Demon King. Across the fog, Lucky Number 2 accelerated sharply and flew towards the black shadow in the thick fog, like an arrow. Seeing this scene, Yilin decided to ignore the other warships, and together with Guzi, quietly followed behind the Lucky Number 2. Woo. In the thick fog, Lucky Number 2 made a high-pitched whistle. It's like the horn sounded by a warrior who is about to be heroic, before rushing to the final battlefield. Looking at the back of Lucky Number 2, Yilin knew clearly that driven by some kind of inertia, this ship was likely to end up in bad luck, but Yilin had no other reason besides silent praise. To stop this ship. Farewell. Yilin accelerated with all his strength, and Nightmare roared excitedly under his crotch. Rush. At the last moment, Yilin no longer concealed his methods. With a wave of his hand, Bai Xiaoi appeared strangely behind him. Stop talking nonsense and go quickly. The moment Bai Xiaoi appeared, the surroundings were filled with the sound of gunfire, fighting, and screams. As smart as she was, She knew that she should be on a very fierce battlefield at this moment. "Yes, my master." Bai Xiaoai's face was sullen, and without saying a word, her translucent body floated out from behind Yilin and was located at a high altitude, providing Yilin with the broadest view. Switch perspectives. After using magic water, Yilin's spiritual energy value returned to full value. With the addition of plenty buff, Yilin now also has sufficient spiritual energy value to consume. First use Bai Xiaoai's vision to see. Let's see who the legendary boss is. Go. Eye plug. After switching the field of view, the world in front of you is completely different. Bai Xiaoai's sight seemed to penetrate the thick fog and fall directly on the strange shadow of a ship deep in the fog. The paint of the Demon King's ship is rich ink black, making it look like a black hole. On the bow of the Demon King's ship, there is a strange head-shaped decoration. The style is completely different from the art of this world. In the thick fog, the bow of the ship seemed to come alive, with indifferent eyes staring at lucky number 2 through the thick fog. No one on board. Yilin quickly obtained all the information that could be read from the site, and found that the so-called Demon King was just a ship, and there was no trace of any other humans on the ship. After all, in the eyes of the spirit, units like human beings are like special units in the game, highlighted and outlined, very conspicuous. That is. Suddenly, Yilin's pupils shrank slightly. In the center of the Demon King's ship, somewhere in the depths, there seemed to be a strange thing floating faintly. The existence hidden deep in the depths of the Demon King's ship seemed to have completely distorted the surrounding space. In Bai Xiaoai's field of vision, it was refracted into colorful shapes, like black rays of light that had been radiated and then reunited, and like a ball of light. The flames burned into strange shapes. At a glance, it was impossible to tell the true identity of the flames. Internal. Yilin wanted to see more clearly, but at this time, her eyebrows were already stinging, as if peeking into the depths again would bring indelible trauma to her spirit. After all, although spiritual vision is useful, it cannot be equated to the existence of the eye of true seeing. Thinking of this, Yilin did not force it. After roughly guessing the size and shape of the Demon King boss, in order not to continue to consume spiritual energy, Yilin once again commanded Bai Xiaoai to look down at the battlefield in front of him from a condescending perspective. Lucky number 2 vs Devil Ship. At the same time, no one noticed that a translucent ghost was looking down at everything with an interesting look. Lucky number 2 deck. The three mainstays of the Navy, tiramisu, macchiato, and cappuccino, all had serious expressions on their faces. But deep in his eyes, there was also a hint of hidden excitement. Lucky number 2 is getting closer and closer to the shadow. Against the backdrop of the thick fog, the shadow that symbolizes the Devil King is like a tall mountain peak, faintly revealing a terrifying figure, and this may be just the tip of the iceberg of the Demon King. Da-da-da. The three admirals walked in unison to the bow of the ship at the same time. The three of them looked at each other. Tiramisu blowing smoke. Macchiato stroked her bangs coquettishly, with a delicate suitcase at hand. The cappuccino still had a sullen face. Behind him, there was also a box, but it was much larger than the macchiato. In front of the captain's cabin, Governor Kira Roberts' eyes were faintly glowing with a strange red light. On the deck, other Navy soldiers were already waiting, their palms were sweaty. Do it? Tiramisu suddenly sneered and shook the cigarette rod in his hand, as if a button had been activated. In a burst of light blue light and texture, the delicate cigarette rod turned into a terrifying sniper rifle. And at the same time, Macchiato caressed the delicate box in his hand and whispered softly, like a whisper between lovers. Wake up, my Miranda. Click click click. Cappuccino, charge, Aries. Click click click. As soon as they finished speaking, the boxes of different models and sizes belonging to the two admirals split instantly. On the box, there are lines of light blue texture, crisscrossing and sharp edges, full of a cross-air atmosphere. Along the interlaced textures, the two boxes quickly disintegrated into parts in the thick fog amid the sounds of gears grinding. Each part is connected by various mechanical connecting structures, and is smooth. There is no ambiguity or jamming during the deformation process. It is impossible to imagine that the weapons of the three of them belong to the technology of this era. Almost at the same time, the weapons of the three of them have been changed. Except for the tiramisu sniper rifle that he had already seen, it was the first time that the weapons of the other two generals were shown in front of Yilin. If he had not been mentally prepared, the sudden change of painting style would definitely be difficult to understand for a moment. But as long as you accept it, it's okay. Unlike Tiramisu's light firearm, the arrogant Admiral Macchiato's box turned into a heavy portable cannon after being reassembled, and the barrel mouth was not the usual shape for firing a physical cannon. On the contrary, there are three long and narrow metal rods standing in front, the whole body is rectangular, and the body of the gun is covered with interlaced patterns with blue light. Yilin's eyes were in mid-air. Suddenly I felt a little messy. This shape, could it be the legendary electromagnetic gun? Is it real or fake? The other side is even more outrageous. It's no wonder that the cappuccino box is carried on the back. After the various parts were reassembled, they clicked onto Cappuccino's arms, feet, and back, forming a strange armor. The Cappuccino looks like a futuristic warrior who has traveled across time and space, which is very cool. Of course, this is just a description from the appearance, and the specific combat effectiveness is unknown. Is this the real hidden weirdness in the Navy? More than weird, this is simply outrageous. What happened to this trial? Been transported through time? Could this main quest 3 be? Yilin wanted to make a casual comment and express her mood. But suddenly, when Yilin casually mentioned main mission 3, her eyes froze. He suddenly remembered the seemingly very benevolent punishment in the main mission 3. Mission failed, completely deprived of apostle qualifications. After a moment of silence, Yilin suddenly felt his scalp numb, and a terrible thought flashed through his mind. I see. At this time, lucky number 2 deck. The three generals were ready to make a move. Lucky 2 is moving at full speed. No one knows whether this lucky ship name can bring them back. No one noticed that in the captain's cabin at the stern, two figures, a man and a dog, slipped onto the ship silently. Wherever he passed, the Navy died silently, leaving only a hideous wound on his neck. Yilin shook the bloody jasmine. At this time, his power attributes were no longer the same as when he first became an apostle. Even if the blood jasmine has not yet possessed a spirit, under the wielding of different power attributes, the effects it exerts are vastly different. With his current strength attributes, an ordinary person's neck would be broken with a twist, and he would die in an instant, let alone use a knife. Going under the knife is a good habit and tradition, that must be maintained at all times. After harvesting a negligible wave of chaos points, Yilin's expression did not change at all. There was no one alive around. More naval forces gathered around the three admirals. Yilin directly drove the Night Dyer onto the ship. At this point, time is running out, and there is no way to say whether something will be discovered or not. He is a pirate, adhering to the fine tradition of pirates, crimes should be committed openly. The captain's cabin door was closed again, and that weird governor, for some reason, retreated into the cabin again. The dog didn't bark, but raised his paw and smashed the door. The scary skeleton gentleman, and the dog broke in. In the captain's cabin there were no lights. But the light that came in after Yilin opened the door illuminated a corner of the cabin. A man wrapped in bandages, like a corpse, was standing upright against the wall, neither sleeping nor sitting. It was very strange. Weird. When the skeleton gentleman and the dog entered, there was a lot of movement, and two slightly red eyes looked at Yilin and the dog in an instant. Yilin shook Blood Jasmine and laughed softly, "So it's all your fault. Who are you?" The governor, Kira Robert, was silent. But the strange thing is that apart from being silent, the governor seemed to have no intention of resisting or calling for help. Yilin looked at those red eyes for a moment, with a solemn expression. "Were you left behind in the last mission?" Hearing this, Kira Robert finally broke the silence and replied with an electronic interference sound, "Mission? Tsitsize, are you also a time traveler? Why are so many people, Tsitsize, traveling to this place? In this damn world? No, damn it, I'm the Tsitsize protagonist." Yilin was startled. 28 seconds later, Yilin looked at Kira Robert, whose head was broken into two pieces on the floor, and fell into deep thought. There is no confusion value. In other words, it is not the real body and does not belong to life. The robot in front of him was very crude, not even comparable to the Xiao half-mechanical body that had caused a lot of trouble for the weak Yilin. It seemed like it was just a mechanical humanoid that could barely move and receive signals from its own body. Just a device. Of course, what Yilin was slightly concerned about was not the governor's true identity. What surprised him was the name the governor addressed them. Traveler. This was the first time Yilin met someone who had been deprived of his apostle status in a trial. Never encountered it in my previous life. In this life, in the Ghost Mist Mountain, when Mani had just been deprived of her identity, and then she was instantly killed by Yilin, without even a box. Therefore, Yilin does not know what kind of posture she will live in the trial world after being deprived of her identity. Now, Yilin seems to have the answer. A person who was deprived of all memories about the tower but had memories that did not belong to this world was forcibly changed into a traveler? It really has no sense of violation. Even the sufferer feels it is very natural, and even feels complacent because of the superiority of the traveler. As for where we can see that Kira Robert is complacent, we can deduce it from the fact that he calls himself the protagonist. Haha, this is really ironic. Yilin lowered his head and glanced at the uninteresting pile of junk on the ground. After shaking his head and sighing inexplicably, he prepared to leave and go to the sea to fight the boss. And right now, Yilin suddenly felt a chill on her head, as if something splashed down. He raised his head and saw Alice, the lonely mother spirit, appearing silently behind Yilin. Tick-tock. Alice's hatred and anger were all written on her face, the scars split open and blood spurted out. Nicholas, Zhao. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 224. Sea of Mist. The situation is chaotic. Demons dance wildly. The mentality of all the Navy has collapsed. They thought they were just gathering up the courage to fight pirates, but they didn't expect that a group of monsters would come out of the pirate ships in the fog. It's unscientific. This is completely unscientific. It's not taught in the Navy's required textbooks. Lieutenant General Pope was mixed in the crowd and shed 2 sad tears. When spring comes next year, if he is still alive, he will definitely abandon the dark side and turn to the bright side, completely staying away from the high-risk industry of the Navy. The Caribbean is so dangerous. I want to go home. Go home. Soon. Pirate ships and warships were in close combat, and the cursed ghosts were fighting with the trembling Navy. If we were to use more accurate words to describe this scene, it would be a ferocious evil spirit, slaughtering the unarmed Navy without restraint. As long as you're not unarmed, it's not too cruel. Gu Tianqing is on one of the warships. No one noticed that a certain Marine who was alive and kicking a minute ago had his living heart ripped out and died miserably. After Gu Tianqing replaced her heart, she suddenly frowned slightly. In the sky over the foggy sea, there is no daylight, and the sunlight is also obscured by the thick fog, making it difficult to distinguish between day and night. But now, from unknown time on, the surrounding dense fog has become darker and the light has become dimmer, as if to prepare for some kind of terrifying atmosphere. Gu Tianqing carefully calculated that from the time he entered the Sea of Mist to the present day, it should not be so soon until dark. Deep in the depths of the seabed, a mottled shadow appeared silently from the abyss of the seabed, without any sound or waves, and stayed under the warship where Gu Tianqing was. Right now, the originally calm sea water seemed to be heated to boiling in an instant, surging crazily and setting off waves. Even the warships specially reinforced to deal with shipwrecks swayed in the face of the sudden changes, following the waves. And move. It even has a sense of rhythm. Paste 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 dash. Gilialo. Bubbles as big as watermelons surged out from the deep water, and when they broke on the surface of the sea, they made an uncomfortable sound. Originally, in this chaos, no one would notice this weird sound. But the sound is getting louder and clearer, coming from everyone's feet. It sounds like every inch of skin on the body is wrapped in a slippery, sticky but disgusting touch. It makes you want to vomit but feels sick. It's hard to spit anything out. Gradually, the weird bubbling sound converged into a high and low sound, hoarse and shrill. At first it sounded like a roar, but if you listened carefully, it sounded like a cry. Valley, 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 sky, clear. Valley, valley, sky, sky, sunny. Gu Tian, Cheng. At that moment when the sound from the bottom of the sea was the most clearly identifiable, countless terrifying tentacles broke through the sea surface and completely choked the warship in an instant. Amidst the screams of countless people, the specially reinforced warship, in front of those thick and slippery tentacles, it was as fragile as a model warship, and was easily crushed and strangled in front of everyone. In just a few dozen seconds, amidst the horrifying roar, the huge warship was torn apart by the tentacles, and the clicking sound resounded throughout the foggy sea. In the blink of an eye, the warship had sunk into the sea and turned into a fragmented wreck. The naval soldiers on several other warships witnessed the scene with their own eyes. Their limbs were already cold and they were so shocked that they could hardly breathe. The sea is a sea monster. I don't know who shouted out this sentence with all the strength of his life. Then, the sound suddenly stopped and was replaced by more and more realistic screams. The Marines were completely dumbfounded. They were surrounded by ghosts on the left and right, and sea monsters below. This Sea of Mist really lived up to its reputation, and in front, there was the Marines' lifelong goal, the Demon King. The matter of the Demon King is a certain level of secret, and not all the Navy knows the true face of the Demon King. Immortal pirates, sea monsters, demon kings, foggy seas, if a large army of ghosts appeared at this time, they would not have any more surprises. After easily strangling a warship, a terrifying figure emerged from the bottom of the sea. It was a round head, covered with foul-smelling green abscesses. As the monster moved, the abscesses continued to burst, and more abscesses sprouted from the monster's body, growing endlessly and full of green. And the tentacles that strangled the warship stretched out from the round ball like a mountain of meat. A rough count showed that the number of tentacles sticking out of the sea had already exceeded the configuration of ordinary sea monsters. They were numerous and flexible, wriggling and dancing on the sea surface in various enchanting postures. None of this is outrageous. The most creepy thing is that at the top of the spherical pile of meat, there is half a human-like body growing on the pile of meat. The body of the human-shaped pile of flesh is also covered with sticky and foul-smelling abscesses, and there are drops of fishy stench. Mucus was dripping from the ruptured abscess. He. And just when the monster completely revealed its appearance as the tip of the iceberg in front of everyone, behind the human figure on the meatball, there was a sudden squirm, and an ugly head broke out of the flesh. Weird laughter came from the gap in the second head that looked like a mouth, making people feel numb. The shape of the sea monster has far exceeded the limits of imagination in this world. On the sea. Gu Tianqing smiled, pedaling on a skateboard, nimbly dodging the tentacles crawling crazily from the bottom of the sea. It's a bit miserable for you to be like this. Did she give you too much? Gu Tianqing. Nicholas Zhao, who originally thought he could squat comfortably in the shipwreck bay and wait, was inexplicably hit by a backstab from Gu Tianqing. Now he hates Gu Tianqing, who doesn't say anything, and he has reached the point where he can't wait to kill Gu Tianqing. He swallowed the flesh and blood and chewed it slowly in his mouth. I'm going to eat you. Nicholas Zhao has given up everything, completely transformed into the ugly incarnation of the curse, signed a contract with Calypso, and turned into the human and ghost he is today. But it doesn't matter, he is still an apostle. As long as he can complete his mission and return to the real world, everything can return to its original appearance. Moreover, the person who turned into a monster was Nicholas Zhao. What does it have to do with him, Zhao Xingchen? Nothing to do with it? Kill. Kill that Gu Tianqing who keeps telling lies. Compared with the carnivore-like body of the sea monster, Gu Tianqing was much petite while riding a skateboard. He was dodging between the tentacles. Although it was a bit difficult, it was not to the point where he was immediately cool. Gu Tianqing lowered his head and thought for a moment, then he spoke loudly and far away to the sea monster that Zhao Xingchen transformed into. Haha, actually in Shipwreck Bay, it was the Navy who ordered the cannon fire. What does that have to do with me? I can't influence the Navy's actions. Besides, now that the mission has come to an end, everything will return to normal after you return, and we are not at the point of fighting to the death. Don't forget, if we fail to complete the mission, all of us will be deprived of our status as apostles and will remain here completely. While talking, the movement of the tentacles suddenly paused, then slowly swung, and the attack on Gu Tianqing also slowed down. Gu Tianqing also gave Zhao Xingchen enough time to think, and smiled without saying a word. Zhao Xingchen turned his head filled with carrion and thought seriously. Indeed. What Gu Tianqing said makes sense. Profit is everything to an apostle. If he just stared at Gu Tianqing and chased him, he would most likely end up staying in this world and become a poor native. After learning the truth about the tower, no apostle was willing to be deprived of his identity as an apostle and stay in one of the trial worlds. That feeling might be more terrifying than death. And as long as he can return to the real world, with his ability. Zhao Xingchen thought of this and was about to agree. Suddenly, he struggled to move the flesh on his body and raised his head. However, he discovered that from a certain direction in the thick fog, a ferocious and translucent white shadow, with a sinister aura, flew towards this direction like a ray of light. The white shadow moved very fast in the air. When he blinked again, he could already see the face of the white shadow clearly. It was a pale face, covered with scars. Blood was still flowing from the scars, and his hair was disheveled. Like a female ghost harboring boundless resentment for all eternity. The resentful spirit came behind Zhao Xingchen in the blink of an eye and merged with the protruding head behind him. Oh, my love, we will never be separated again in this life. It was obviously like the sweetest love words, but when these love words, in this ghost story-like atmosphere, with a sinister and resentful tone, rang out from the back of his head, it made Zhao Xingchen feel as cold as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. It was as if countless invisible tentacles were invading from behind, entangled him tightly, and seemed to drag Zhao Xingchen into the abyss. The head growing out of the back had turned into the appearance of a vicious woman at some point, with black hair growing out of the flesh. As a result, that face, which could still distinguish some feminine features despite its ugliness, smiled beautifully. Gu Tianqing. You tricked me again. On the sea monster, a strange scene almost shocked everyone's attention. The two heads on the back of the sea monster were biting together like crazy, like two lovers, entangled in life and death. Maybe this is love. Gu Tianqing shook his head and sighed, and ignored Zhao Xinchen. He drove the jet skateboard under his feet and slid quickly in the direction of the fierce battle in the thick fog. There is one of the objectives of the main mission 3. The Demon King. It seems that I owe you another favor, elegant lady. Gu Tianqing smiled slightly. At the same time, lucky number 2, on deck. The 3 generals have been fully equipped and ready to go out at any time. Closer, closer, closer. In the fog, a huge black ship tore through the thick fog, revealing its terrifying true appearance. Macchiato's eyes flashed, and he suddenly raised the electromagnetic gun, a time-honored weapon in his hand. After entering the shooting range, he decisively aimed at the Black Demon King's ship. The governor said that as long as we can get close to the Demon King, this electromagnetic cannon is enough to completely paralyze the Devil King. You two, I'm afraid you won't have a chance to appear. Charge. Charging completed. Aim. Macchiato was high-spirited, staring at the terrifying figure not far away that the Navy had been pursuing for many years. That ship seemed to have become a spirit. Before Macchiato fired, countless thoughts emerged in the depths of his mind. His lifelong energy and pursuit in this life are all for today, for firing this vigorous cannon that lays the foundation for everything. All because of this shot. Rush. For the glory of the Empire. Emission. On the electromagnetic gun, the electrode light flows and converges into a dazzling stream of light. At the moment of firing, an invisible aftermath spreads to every corner of the foggy sea in an instant. Sizzling. The dazzling light also condensed into a beam, and a hole was torn out of the thick fog in front of him. The terrifying electromagnetic bombardment hit the black ship without stopping. Immediately afterwards, Kurafune shivered slightly. Click click click. Click, 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 click. In thick fog. The black figure is getting taller and taller. That ship was called the Devil. Sudden. Stood up. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 225. After seeing Macchiato's portable electromagnetic gun emitting light piercing the thick fog. That beam of light penetrated the thick fog and tore out a clear scene. It was very shocking, as if it could dispel the haze deep in everyone's heart. The ordinary sailors gathered around the 3 admirals on the deck of Lucky Number 2 had already brewed up their emotions and were ready to shout victory at the moment when the Macchiato was fired. But suddenly, there's something wrong with the style of painting. After the electromagnetic cannon blasted out, the Black Demon King's ship trembled slightly in the thick fog. Click click click. A smooth sound of mechanical grinding came from the thick fog. After the Demon King's ship trembled for a moment, it was silent for a moment. In the shocked eyes of everyone, countless mysterious textures emerged on the pitch-black hull. Along those obscure textures, the Demon King's ship was like the weapon of 3 admirals. Like that, spinning, jumping, decomposing, and reorganizing. The Demon King stood up with a new attitude. In an instant, tiramisu, macchiato, and cappuccino were so shocked that they actually said one sentence at the same time. This unscientific. Hee hee. The people in the room who are least qualified to say this are you 3. The blood jasmine in Yilin's hand slid gracefully across the tiramisu's snow-white neck. Let the world feel pain from now on. Goal, cappuccino. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. After dealing with the governor's mechanical clone, Yilin, with the suffocating feeling of being raped for nothing, followed him like a shadow and sneaked behind the 3 generals silently. Perhaps because he was following him like a shadow, or perhaps everyone on the deck was attracted by the shocking transformation of the Demon King's ship, an elegant gentleman in black approached from behind without anyone noticing. When Tiramisu reacted, blood spurted out from his neck. He had lost all his strength and fell to the ground. And the other end. The weapons of the 3 generals are very terrifying. At the very least, Their deformation is far beyond the level of this era. Yulin did not dare to be careless. Among the three of them, if they were to fight head-on, Cappuccino's exoskeleton-like equipment would bring the greatest sense of threat to Yulin. Yulin did not hesitate and gave him a blow. He came with one shot. After taking away the tiramisu, Cappuccino was charged in the same place. Before the armor that spanned the ages could exert its power, a knife was inserted into his mouth. His eyes widened and he flopped on the spot a few times. Soon there was no sound. Starting from Yulin's violent murder, from tiramisu to Cappuccino, they died tragically, so fast that people were caught off guard. If it comes to fighting each other head-on, Yulin's efficiency in killing monsters may not be comparable to that of Fatty, but if it comes to stabbing people in the back, with Li Erpang's conspicuous figure, he may never experience such a sinister feeling of pleasure in his life. Of course, that was Yulin's comparison on the premise of saving psychic energy and trying not to use too many trump cards. Otherwise, when it comes to playing, he may not be much weaker than Fatty. Whether it is the change of form of the possessed weapon, or the final trump card bloodthirsty catastrophe, one consumes a lot of money, and the other has terrible sequelae. It is better to turn on Shadow Follower and directly backstab, which is more relaxed and enjoyable. In the blink of an eye, two more corpses named Tiramisu and Cappuccino appeared on the deck. Yulin took a look at the chaos value, then without hesitation reached out and touched the two corpses. Bloodthirsty disaster was activated in advance, and the lives of the two people instantly turned into two streams of blood, which were stored in Yulin's body. In this world, Yulin has only a handful of people who can actually stab her in the back, and the blood intent condensed by her attributes is too low to be of much use, so until now, the blood intent Yulin has stored is only at the third level. The third floor isn't safe enough. Oh, it should be the fourth floor. Standing next to the two corpses, the handsome Macchiato was already messy in the wind. Skeleton gentleman. When Macchiato came back to her senses, her eyes widened in shock, but her reaction was not slow. She directly turned the muzzle and pointed it at the damn skeleton gentleman, preparing to take a shot. However, a shadow suddenly shot out from behind Yulin, and a furry claw instantly pinned Macchiato to the ground. No matter how quick your reaction is, it is useless if you calculate mentally but not intentionally. The dog was full of energy and stepped on Macchiato's face with his head held high. Looking at his expression, he seemed to want to spread his legs and urinate. Macchiato was pinned down by the dog, but she still refused to give in and struggled hard. No, you can't kill me. Once I die, this face will never get chaos value at 89. Huh? What was this guy planning to say just now? Yulin quickly drew out the fourth layer of blood intent, and there was a hint of doubt behind the delicate mask. Because Yulin and Goza cooperated too skillfully and moved too fast, the deaths of the three admirals were too sudden. It was not until Yulin picked up Tiramisu's magical cigarette rod from the ground and looked at it that there was no one in the surrounding navy. React to. Come on, the generals are all dead. It's the man who uses dogs to spread terror. It's the skeleton gentleman. Damn pirates. Macchiato, Admiral Macchiato was pinned to death by a dog. Everyone's face turned pale, but they did not forget that they were a glorious navy. They raised their guns and aimed at the mysterious pirate who stood opposite everyone. It's not equipment. It should have been made by the traveler himself. Yulin only glanced at it. When the property of the cigarette rod did not appear, Yulin already understood everything. These three high-tech weapons that can be transformed into cards cannot be stored in the storage space. The level of technology exceeds a certain threshold. In other words, there is no way to bring back the real world. Pity. Yulin turned around, looked back, and slowly shook the blood-stained blood jasmine in her hand in front of the navy as if to demonstrate. You should know that this kind of bullet has no effect on me, or do you want to sacrifice yourself? At the same time as he said these words, All the Navy's bodies were shaken, as if there was an infinite and invisible pressure that suddenly spread with the skeleton gentleman as the center. The figure looked like a demon. At this moment, all the Navy felt like their necks were being tightened by invisible tentacles, making it difficult to breathe. Horrible, so terrifying. After the Marines fled, Yulin silently took back the tentacle. Goza cast a contemptuous look at Yulin, as if he didn't understand this guy's fake virgin behavior. Yulin shook her head helplessly. Are you wondering why I didn't kill them? Emperor Wang Tian nodded lightly. As apostles, we will ignore life because of our mission, interests, and opposition, but at the same time, we must retain the minimum reverence for life. Emperor Wang Tian. Is it a contradiction? Maybe, you are too doggy. You don't understand. Human beings are such contradictory creatures. Maybe because of this, we are humans and you are a dog, this is the bottom line. Emperor Wang Tian seemed to understand. Yulin suddenly raised his head and looked at the figure blocking the sky and sun above his head. Besides, I don't have time now to harvest these mosquito leg meat. When Emperor Wang Tian heard this, his eyes widened, and he almost spit out the undigested bones and dregs in his stomach. This is the real reason. I didn't expect you to be even worse than me. A black shadow nearly 50 meters high was like billowing dark clouds, covering the sky. In the thick fog, it looks even more terrifying. That's what the Demon King's ship transformed into, a giant. Iron giant. A shape-shifting giant. What Yulin said was indeed correct. Taking advantage of the gap between the Demon King's decomposition, reorganization, and transformation, Yulin used the fastest speed to eliminate the 3 Navy admirals. In a normal face-to-face confrontation, whether it is Tiramisu's sniper rifle, Macchiato's electromagnetic gun, or Cappuccino's armor, they are all very difficult equipment to deal with. But because Macchiato's electromagnetic gun, which could paralyze all electronic equipment, did not paralyze the Demon King's ship as expected, the 3 generals instantly lost their sense of normalcy and became confused. That's why Yulin and Goza were able to combine humans and dogs, take advantage of the situation, and get 3 blood points in the shortest time. Moreover, if Yulin had not been mentally prepared, she might have been shocked by the sudden change in the style of the Demon King's ship and lost her mind for a moment. After being mentally prepared, no matter how weird or strange what happened in front of her, Yulin would never be frightened. Get out of the way. Woof. Now. The Demon King, who had completed his transformation, already had the power to destroy the world. A huge palm tore through the thick fog and swatted at lucky number 2. Yulin suddenly remembered the ship graves floating on the sea and the ships that were torn into pieces of various shapes. It turned out that this was the culprit that caused all that. Super robot. Yulin was complaining crazily in her heart, but her movements were not slow. With the current agility attribute bonus, Yulin had enough time to react and immediately avoid the next attack. The night dire had not been put away, so Yulin used the fastest speed to retreat violently towards the deck where the night dire was parked. On deck. The other Navy soldiers were so frightened that their faces turned pale and without any blood. A terrifying palm fell from the sky. Even if it was without any plan, its pure power was enough to shatter everything. This is the so-called one force that defeats 10, where great efforts can produce miracles, and whoever is weak will suffer the consequences. Boom boom boom. The frightening air waves, centered here, rippled in all directions. At the same time, in this area of the Misty Sea, whether it was the Navy, the immortal demon pirates, or the heads behind the suffering and the ugly sea monster Zhao Xin Chen, who fell in love and killed each other, all felt the terrible turmoil from the front one after another. It seemed that even the air around him was mourning, roaring, and vibrating. With just a palm, the lucky number 2 warship, known as the Overlord of the Sea in the Navy, was completely photographed into the seabed in the blink of an eye. At the moment when the warship was photographed, One wave after another of small tsunamis swept the sea area. All the boats were overturned, and almost no one could stand steadily on the deck. Including those cursed pirate legions, they could only hold on to the supports around them to avoid being thrown into the sea by this terrible impact. Damn humans! The Demon King's head, where the two eyes were, emitted a frightening red light, and a voice mixed with electronic equipment spread throughout the foggy sea in an instant. Yilin and Guzi, who were at the front of the Demon King, were finally able to see the Demon King's true face after the thick fog was slapped away by the Demon King. It was a giant formed by the disassembly and reorganization of a black warship. The giant's head, torso, and limbs were all in proportion to normal humans. It was full of the beauty of steel and violence, and every detail was filled with steam. The painting style is punk, and some features of the former warship can still be vaguely recognized everywhere on the Demon King's body. It's like, the Demon King is carrying a heavy black anchor behind him, and there are chains attached to the anchor. This unusual weapon configuration gave Yilin an ominous premonition. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 226. Lucky number 2, which was penetrated to the bottom of the sea by a slap, was indeed lucky and resurfaced soon after. Tossing and turning. It's just that although the warship floated, the center of the warship was dented by the terrible force, as if it could be broken into two pieces with just one more palm. Many sailors on the deck were instantly shot to pieces, and many sailors managed to survive, emerging from the sea and swimming frantically in the direction away from the Demon King. In this sea of fog, the shape-shifting giant in front of you is the real devil, dominating everyone's life and death. The power of that palm was enough to frighten everyone's courage, let alone fight against it. This is the devil. No matter which way you look at it, this is a monster that should not exist in this era or in this world. It's hard to handle. Gu Tianqing was riding a skateboard, struggling to steady herself next to Yilin, and floated up and down with the waves. Yilin mounted the nightmare again and stood firmly on the wave, unmoving. The skill of ignoring terrain is not as simple as it seems on the surface, and has endless uses. Yilin nodded, and then asked, "When did you come?" Gu Tianqing smiled and said, "You just didn't notice." Yilin also laughed, but quickly said in a determined tone, "Tarot cards." Gu Tianqing narrowed her eyes, "If you continue like this, it will make it difficult for me to cooperate happily with you." Yilin did not continue to test Gu Tianqing's ability, but Yilin roughly guessed Gu Tianqing's ability without testing. If it were an enemy, it would be very difficult. Yilin changed the subject, "It can talk." Gu Tianqing, the electromagnetic gun has no effect on it. It should not be as simple as a simple machine. Yilin, it feels like I'm on the wrong set. Gu Tianqing, it's possible. Yilin, oh, this difficulty obviously doesn't give us of this level a way to survive. Gu Tianqing's expression remained unchanged, but why does it sound to me like you already have a solution? Yilin smiled and said, "There is really nothing we can do if we are alone." The surrounding waves gradually calmed down, but Gu Tianqing smiled, "Together." "Okay, men first." Gu Tianqing didn't mind either, and took a small step forward on the skateboard. "No problem, just, the final comment, don't mind it." Yilin smiled and turned the accelerator, sliding forward a short distance. "That makes sense, should I go first?" Gu Tianqing took another step back. "Okay." Unexpectedly, when he backed away, Yilin turned around and had already gone further. "I still think it's better to let you go first. Who among us will follow whom? It doesn't matter if you get some contribution points first." Gu Tianqing. And just when Yilin and Gu Tianqing were happily arguing, the Demon King's next attack came directly without any warning. I saw the terrifying Demon King taking out the huge black anchor from behind. The expressions of Yilin and Gu Tianqing changed slightly at the same time, and they actually tacitly agreed not to continue talking nonsense. They used their own methods and maximum power to predict the sea area where the Demon King would attack, and immediately escaped from the place where the disaster was about to occur. This is no longer something that can be matched by human power. Run away. The devil's eyes flashed red for a moment, and although they were silent, there seemed to be an invisible force bursting out from him. Immediately afterwards, the Demon King took out a giant anchor with a chain in one hand and slashed it down into the sea. With its size, there is no need to deliberately aim, and it can destroy everything with every movement. The human body seems so humble and insignificant in front of it, and it is vulnerable. Boom! Gu Tianqing. In the thick fog, at this moment, a shrill roar came. Behind the roar, there was also the faint laughter of a girl full of love and poetry. It's poor Zhao Xingchen, and Alice. The lovers who fell in love and killed each other came through the fog. The terrifying sea monster was shaped like a hill, and its body was still covered with endless abscesses. There was boundless resentment in its tone. As he swam, huge waves were thrown around his body, and in the blink of an eye he overturned 2 more crumbling warships. Zhao Xingchen's incarnation of the curse, that ferocious sea monster, was majestic. The half of the body on the sea monster's head belonged to Nicholas Zhao, and there was a smiling head behind it, biting each other with Zhao Xingchen. Both heads were chewing fishy flesh and blood. This scene was chilling. But in Zhao Xingchen's view, although he was a bit ugly with all the curses gathered into him, at least in this world, he was almost invincible. I don't know if he suffered from paranoia after being tricked by Gu Tianqing once. Zhao Xingchen mistakenly thought that Alice who suddenly rushed out was Gu Tianqing's work. While frantically biting Alice's 2 heads, he had been living smoothly. Zhao Xingchen, who was so miserable this time, naturally hated Gu Tianqing thoroughly. The kind that I wish I could see through Gu Tianqing. So, Zhao Xingchen came riding the rolling waves with boundless murderous intent. He even gritted his teeth and endured the pain of being bitten madly on his back, just to crush Gu Tianqing to death as soon as possible, complete the main mission 3, and leave this world that made him extremely uncomfortable. And just when Zhao Xingchen drove the huge meatball to break through the thick fog, a dark and cold anchor shadow, like a hammer magnified countless times, slammed down on Zhao Xingchen's head. I don't know if it's too unlucky, but it's really just right. No one can imagine what an incredible scene it would be for a sea monster with a hideous and indescribable shape to say from its mouth. Far away. Yilin and Gu Tianqing closed their eyes at the same time. Yilin, unlucky. Gu Tianqing, a moment of silence. From the moment the Demon King lifted up the giant anchor, to Gu Tianqing and Yilin avoiding it, to Zhao Xingchen breaking through the waves, all of this happened in just over 10 seconds. After a blink of an eye. With the power of smashing everything, the giant anchor hit the sea monster's head hard, and even smashed the squirming and biting humanoid meatball on the top of the sea monster's head into the sea monster's body again. Zhao Xingchen died. Yilin had no time to think too much at this moment. He looked around as if he was searching for something. Gu Tianqing thought for a moment, then smiled slightly, and glanced far away in the direction of Yilin. Not knowing what he was thinking, he turned his palm over, and a dark tarot card appeared in his hand. At the same time, behind Gu Tianqing, a cold and resentful aura swept over. A woman in a ragged black dress, with snow-white skin and flesh visible, and a faint blood glow around the translucent body. When the woman behind Gu Tianqing silently opened her eyes, a pair of scarlet eyes, cold staring at this ruthless world. Gu Tianqing muttered something. It's like praying and singing. The tarot card slowly floated up. In an instant, a roulette wheel as delicate as a mechanical clock appeared behind Ling, and transparent iron ropes suddenly shot out from the roulette wheel in all directions, hiding in the void. Click click click. In the dark, there seems to be some kind of existence, connected by the translucent chain hidden in the void, and their fates have been connected ever since. Gu Tianqing moved very quickly. After doing all this, his face seemed a little pale, but his expression was still that light smile without joy or sorrow, making it difficult to guess his inner thoughts. The chain, the roulette wheel, and the woman with red eyes disappeared from behind Gu Tianqing, as if everything he had just done was just a trivial matter. And Yulin had a panoramic view of the scene. It is indeed a spirit-possessed weapon. It seems to be an auxiliary spirit-possessed weapon with many functions and styles. However, there seems to be something wrong with the look in that spirit's eyes. He had already guessed that Gu Tianqing's tarot cards were not ordinary cards, they were indeed his own spiritual weapons. It would be easier to say if you were at a high level, but at the second level, there were very few people with spirit-possessed weapons. Yulin obtained the spirit-possessing card in the SSS evaluation. Li Chang'e used his face to fool the mother spirit, and Gu Tianqing's spirit-possessing weapon seemed to come from this world, and he didn't know how he obtained it. Adventure, he is not the only one who has it. The position of apostle is a product of the waves. It is not surprising that everyone has his own fate. In another timeline, Yulin, who had no modules and no rebirth experience, was just a middle-ranking member of the vast army of apostles, and was not a top-level existence. Now that Yulin can become an apostle ahead of schedule, reaching this point seems to have taken away Henry Zhang's luck, and she is taking the same path that Henry Zhang once experienced. Thank you, Henry Zhang. Yulin quickly finished remembering Henry Zhang. In the center of the foggy sea, the wind and waves caused by the devil and the sea monster actually blew out a clear space in the sea area. Above the head, there were rolling black clouds, and there were electric lights in the black clouds, as if they would turn into lightning at any time. Thunder and lightning struck down. After Gu Tianqing used his strange ability, the demon pirates who were massacring the navy in the waves stopped what they were doing and quickly returned to the pirate ship. Then they set sail and headed towards the Demon King's location at the fastest speed almost simultaneously. The positions are gathered together. At the same time, far away, a pirate ship, also flying the pirate flag, casts a shadow in the fog that has not yet been dispersed, and is about to arrive in this lively sea area. First mate, there seems to be something wrong with the captain. Although Sax couldn't see clearly, the turbulent waves and terrifying vibrations coming from the depths of the foggy sea, the movement that seemed to overturn the entire sea, were not a display. Anyone who is not brainless can guess that some terrible changes are happening in that direction. Nonsense, do you still need to talk about it? Ruth gritted her teeth and gave Sax a hard look, who spoke indiscriminately. Do you still need to use a telescope in this situation? When did you become blind? Besides, even if you don't have to look at it with your eyes, my butt is very sensitive, okay? How can you not feel anything after this earthquake? I was almost shocked, okay? Ruth held onto the railing tightly, trying to maintain her balance in the rough waves and not letting herself be thrown off the deck. Charlie had a stern expression and rubbed his palms. In fact, there is a saying that Charlie doesn't know whether to say or not. But old Gibbs took a sip of rum and said these words that he shouldn't have said. According to the pirate code, any pirate who is alone is destined to live or die. This is the ironclad rule. It is also the law of survival. Obviously, Saxophone, old Gibbs, and Charlie all want to express the same meaning. Ignore the captain and turn around immediately. Walk. Walk. A truly qualified pirate must learn to abandon his own captain. A qualified and excellent captain must be aware of being betrayed by his teammates at any time. Leave this terrible sea immediately. If you don't leave, you might not be able to leave. Old Gibbs' rich experience seemed to tell Ruth that he had seen a lot at this time. He must give up the captain and leave here as soon as possible. Ruth hesitated like a novice pirate. It was obvious that not long ago, she complained about Yilin's unlikeness as a pirate. And at this moment, she also hesitated. Why? Is it because of love? What the hell dash? Ruth finally made up her mind. But at this moment, a strange-shaped sea current, as if condensed into a palm, suddenly surged from the side of the boat and swept Ruth away in an instant. In the blink of an eye, she sank into the deep sea with people and water, and disappeared without a trace. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 227. The sea surrounding the Demon King. The waves are turbulent and endless. The size of the Demon King is so huge that even with just a gesture, it can create a wave that is enough to capsize a small sailboat in an instant. What's more, the Demon King was like a madman at this moment, swinging the giant anchor in his hand to make a clanging sound. The sea monster named Zhao Xingchen was knocked into the deep sea by the devil with a giant anchor. But after Zhao Xingchen transformed into a sea monster, his vitality was extremely tenacious. In the blink of an eye, the monster's head emerged from the deep sea with boundless hatred, and floated again in front of the devil in an ugly posture. Hate, hate, hate. At this moment, he felt that there was a saying that mom sells batches, but he didn't know whether to say it or not. All in all, I felt very depressed, and there was only a lingering hatred lingering in my heart. He hates Gu Tianqing, hates this world, hates this trial, hates the tower, hates everything. Curse, to put it bluntly, is the power of resentment. Only hatred can be turned into a curse and another mysterious power. Hatred surged in the body of the sea monster, and countless tentacles surged out from the body of the sea monster. Zhao Xingchen let out a terrifying roar, and the sound was rolling. Without any reason, he resolutely rushed forward and entangled with the devil. But compared to the Demon King, who is nearly 50 meters tall, the Zhao Xingchen sea monster can barely touch the Demon King's chest. From a distance, it looks like an adult bullying the cute tentacle monster. The painting style has completely become unsightly. In the eyes of two modern people, Yilin and Gu Tianqing, the world that originally had a medieval style seemed to suddenly start filming a sci-fi monster battlefield at this moment, which made people feel a serious sense of discomfort. Born. But, it's exciting. Giant vs Sea Monster. Mobile giant warriors battle aliens. The warrior of light battles the little monster. It makes people feel immersed and mesmerized. Once you get used to this weird style of painting, this scene is full of power, hammering to the core, and very shocking. I saw the wriggling tentacles protruding from the body of the sea monster, frantically strangling the Demon King's steel body, and bursts of electronically synthesized roars came from the Demon King's body. I don't know which dimension of language he was speaking, messy and it couldn't be translated, it just seemed like a meaningless roar. Sparks burst out from the joints of the Demon King. He reached out with both hands, holding the iron rope connected to the giant anchor. He pulled, and in a blink of an eye, the thick tentacles were torn off, and mixed with the mucus gushing from the sea monster's broken tentacles. Together we can stir up troubles in this sea. No words, no verbosity, a giant, a sea monster, just a simple fight. The reason why the Demon King is fighting is not yet known, but Zhao Xingchen just wants to complete his mission and want to leave this world. Their 5 apostles did not come to this world in their true form. Even if they fight in this world until the end, with only one head left, as long as their health points do not return to 0 and are not judged to be dead, even when they return to the real world, the injuries will be transferred to the body intact, but as long as there are enough death points, they can be repaired as before. So, kill. The Navy had long lost their will to fight, and either jumped off the ship and fled, or, without any command, they struggled with the remaining manpower, drove warships, and fled the sea in embarrassment. After witnessing mysterious existences such as ghost pirates, demon kings, and sea monsters with their own eyes, no one in the Navy could still load cannonballs normally, and all their hands shook like convulsions. While the Navy was escaping, the ghost ship seemed to be pushed by a pair of invisible black hands. They raised their sails and rushed towards the set where the devil and the sea monster were fighting as fast as possible. 10 minutes later, pirate ships surrounded him one after another, using the most skillful gestures to turn the ship's bow. Those seemingly irrational ghost pirates, without any command, occupied various positions in an orderly manner, steering, pulling sails, anchoring, turning, drifting, loading cannonballs. They were very professional and amazing. However, no one in the sea has time to appreciate this kind of expertise. Zhao Xing-chen, the sea monster, screamed loudly, and was whipped by the devil with a big whip, causing flesh and mucus to fly away, and he cried bitterly. Behind him, there was Alice, a mother spirit with love and resentment in her heart, gnawing crazily on Nicholas Zhao's flesh and blood without stopping. The pain of being slapped back and forth is very unbearable. Although the Demon King's body is huge, his movements are extremely agile and completely beyond common sense. This kind of technology does not exist in the real world at all, but only exists in fantasy movies and movies. The Demon King who can speak words does not feel like a cold machine to Yilin, but rather a mechanical creature full of anger, with a will that belongs to it. Boom 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 boom. The ghost ships fired their guns one after another. There was no need to aim or distinguish between ourselves and the enemy. Whether it was a sea monster or a demon king, they could fire without missing a beat. Poor Zhao Xing-chen sea monster, after enduring the double ravages of the demon king and Alice, had to endure one more pain in the blink of an eye, the AoE backstab from the cannonball behind the chrysanthemum. In an instant, the tentacles were retracted and extended by the shells, exuding the smell of seafood barbecue. But in order to kill the Demon King, Zhao Xing-chen had to activate more tentacles, frantically strangulating the Demon King's steel armor, as if trying to break the Demon King's limbs. Although the cannonballs of the ghost ships are not very powerful, they are better because they are fired more frequently and are large in quantity. Regardless of the cost, rows of cannonballs are fired crazily at the sea monster and the devil, and they smash a crack on the devil's armor. A dazzling fire. Time passes minute by minute. The sky is getting gloomier. The billowing black clouds seem to come alive, forming various weird shapes in the sky above everyone, monsters and dogs. Sometimes it looks like a person, sometimes it looks like a leg, sometimes it looks like a face. It's unpredictable and weird. Gu Tianqing was riding a skateboard, looking at the scene from a distance, closing her eyes with a look of enjoyment, and gently moving her fingers in front of her, like an elegant conductor, with an evil aura all over her body. The dog is missing. Yilin wanted to move, but didn't. Because it's not the time yet. Another 5 minutes passed. Zhao Xing-chen, who was attacked at the same time on his back and abdomen, finally showed signs of fatigue. Although he was the incarnation of a curse and turned into an ugly sea monster, he had amazing vitality and strong recovery power, but it would not last forever. Just like Yilin, who has strengthened the Dionysian factor, incomplete, even with the terrifying recovery ability of 5% of health per second, she never thinks that she can really achieve immortality. After all, there are too many skills, abilities, or methods that can kill an apostle instantly. 5% health recovery per second may seem like a lot, but aside from other things, if Yilin stands still in front of Oda-mai, with Oda-mai's sword swing speed, this recovery power may not be enough for Oda-mai. Cut. Zhao Xing-chen has begun to fall behind. But it seems that I can barely hold on. After those pirate ships fired rows of cannonballs regardless of losses, they seemed to have insufficient stocks and could not continue for a long time, and the frequency of cannon fire dropped significantly. This is not surprising either. A normal ship has a limited reserve of cannonballs. Even if it is a ghost ship, in a world full of scientific laws, the minimum law of conservation of matter must be observed, cannonballs cannot be made out of nothing. On the other hand, looking at the battlefield where the Demon King fought against the sea monster, Zhao Xingchen was attacked on 3 sides, and the Demon King was also attacked on 2 sides. Although he still looked majestic and was entangled in Zhao Xingchen's mucus-covered tentacles, he still felt the wind when he moved. Make waves. In this sea area, the Navy has already left completely. If the sea monster hadn't been so heroic in dragging the devil back, more Navy might have died here. I don't know what version of what happened today will be spread in the future. The touching story of a sea monster saving the Navy. Thank you, Mr. Kraken. What secrets do humans and sea monsters have to tell? In short, after leaving this world, everything has nothing to do with Yilin and others. Oh. Yilin noticed that although the Demon King's ship could deform, the material used to construct the body did not seem to exceed the limitations of the material itself. After being covered with a thick layer of sea monster mucus and flesh, the acidity contained in the sea monster mucus, it actually corroded the Demon King's body, and the movements between the joints of his limbs became a little more obscure. Goofy. Poor but heroic Zhao Xingchen let out a slimy cry at this moment. If you don't take action, I won't do it anymore. The worst, we all break up. Everyone died here. Zhao Xingchen was completely angry. This is not the way to trick people. He's so big that he can't escape, and he's forced to stand in front of him as a human shield. How about the rest of you do some damage? Zhao Xingchen had an inexplicable misconception in his heart that he was the only apostle fighting the boss in the entire trial. This tragic atmosphere is very unlucky. Indeed. Zhao Xingchen is not a fool. He knows that Gu Tianqing has tricked him several times, but in order to survive the third main mission and become like this, at this moment, he has to do it even if he doesn't. However, even the power of a monster could not withstand the power of the Demon King. Zhao Xingchen's sea monster was gradually losing strength and fell into a disadvantage. If this continues, he will definitely be beaten to death by the hard-bodied super boss in front of him. If he really died, it would be better to drag everyone into the water and support him together. No apostle would be so foolish as to act heroically for others. Nobody. Gu Tianqing, who was playing in the void, looked far away in the direction of Yilin, with a rare interesting expression on his face. As if to say, "It's your turn." Yilin lowered her head. "Time, almost. Emperor Wang Tian, do it. Use all your abilities, come back alive and be served 4 luxurious meals." Guzi has been sitting cross-legged on the front of the dire car. After all, Guzi enjoys doing this kind of activity without any psychological pressure. At this moment, hearing Yilin's promise again, Guzi also grinned, and at some point, he bit a card between his teeth. Yilin estimated that it was almost done, and quickly found a card from the storage space filled with various debris. On the card was a broken, miserable-looking trident. "Guzi, it's my turn, draw a card." Yilin crushed the card. One person and one dog chose the safest moment to take action at the same time. When the breath of the trident began to leak, a vast and boundless voice suddenly appeared from the depths of the billowing black clouds, falling straight to the sky from the sky with terrifying pressure. All the black clouds reunited and condensed into a strange and ferocious face. "Hi, Calypso, I've been waiting for you for a long time." Yilin smiled slightly. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 228. When Calypso's huge and strange face appeared in the black clouds, Yilin grabbed Wang Tiandi's hind legs and threw the dog in the direction of the devil with all his strength. The dog looked confused in mid-air, turned 360 degrees, with its tail stiffened, and fell into the sea. "Woof woof." Emperor Wang Tian spoke in dog language with unknown meaning. And at this time, the card in Guzi's mouth has been bitten into pieces, turning into broken light spots and integrating into Wang Tiandi's body. And 3 lines of text suddenly appeared in front of Guzi. Woof 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 woof. Woof 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 woof. Woof 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 woof. Woof woof. I guess no one can understand it. The translation is probably: welcome the Apostle Wang Tiandi to use the 3-headed dog experience card. The matching degree is being measured. The matching degree reaches 53.2%. Start the experience. In the sea, Guzi was ups and downs with the waves, but his face gradually became grim. Among the scattered fragments of light, Guzi's body was gradually enveloped by the light. As if to cooperate with the matching process, the dog raised one of its front legs, raised its paws high, raised its head, and looked up at the sky. Beside Guzi, the sea water turned into a tornado and rose into the sky. When the light dissipated, a monster with a height of more than 10 meters and 3 ferocious dog heads appeared on the scene, with drool dripping from all 3 heads. 3-headed dog of hell, trial version, please refer to it. After throwing the dog far away, Yilin laughed and said, "Oh, this stupid dog really has a secret." Yilin silently clicked a like. Brave pirate. In the sky, Calypso is high up, overlooking Yilin on the sea with an attitude of indifference to the common people. It's time to fulfill your deal with me. You promised to find the trident for me, and now, you have finally fulfilled your agreement. Yilin raised her head and looked at the sky with a slight smile. On the face transformed by the clouds, where the 2 eyes and mouth were, there were 3 deep black holes, bottomless, as if they could swallow everything, and there was a faint light of thunder and lightning flashing inside. This appearance was far more impressive than the face Yilin saw in the center of the hurricane. In Yilin's hand, a trident full of ancient charm came across the border from the end of the light. The trident was full of cracks and seemed to break if touched, but it was glued together without any violation. Among the dense cracks, a crystal-clear translucent gel was faintly revealed, as if it was forcibly adhered by some kind of gel. On the ship at that time, Yilin followed Ruth's tips and found old Gibbs. The drunk old Gibbs actually recognized the origin of the unknown liquid. It turns out that after Captain Jack was swallowed by a sea monster, he was doing nothing in the sea monster's belly and discovered this mysterious mucus, so he dug up a lot of it and hid it in his arms. Captain Jack originally thought that it might be used as backup food at the most critical moment. Unfortunately, Captain Jack failed to use it in the end. According to old Gibbs' description, after old Captain Jack was resurrected from the abyss of Davy Jones, he was very unlucky and impoverished for a period of time, so he sold the sea monster's slime to the black market in exchange for a few bottles of Lang. The money for the rum. In the end, for some unknown reason, one of these unknown liquids scattered all over the world ended up in Yilin's hands many years later. When Captain Jack sold it, in order to make more money, he diluted the sea monster mucus with sea water. 10 years later, there were hundreds of copies of this extremely viscous liquid in the sea, but only 2. There must be several digits of inventory. After all, it is not a very precious treasure. Therefore, the bottle of glue used to reglue the trident is not as difficult to obtain as imagined. After avoiding Calypso's sight in the cabin, Yilin used Kraken brand glue to carefully glue the broken trident back together. When the true attributes of the trident were revealed in front of Yilin, Yilin couldn't help but marvel. Poseidon's trident. Grade legend, battle damage condition. Restrictions. The original restrictions have been lost due to damage. Durability 86/10,000. Effect. Click to view details. Instructions. Click to view details. At this time, Yilin was holding an awesome trident, and she felt like she was becoming awesome. At the moment when the trident appeared, all the wind and all the waves were calm and there were no more waves. At this moment, no one can use words or any description to describe this strange but magical picture. On the sea, 3 huge monsters were fighting, causing waves. Human beings were so insignificant in front of those three monsters that they could only hold onto the edge of the boat and were forced to follow the waves up and down, left and right. But in an instant, when the trident appeared, it was as if there was an invisible giant hand that pushed down the waves, silently, and calmed the sea so easily. It seems like, this turbulent sea chose to kneel down and surrender at the moment when the king appeared. And when the trident appeared completely in Yilin's hand, the human face transformed by the clouds in the sky became a little more ferocious and ruthless as the clouds and mist rolled around. I saw Calypso converging the sound of wind and thunder into an indifferent sentence: "Brave sea warrior, fulfill your promise and hand over the trident." Yilin smiled and said, "You have a beautiful idea." When Calypso heard this, he immediately became angry. "You actually disobeyed the gods." As if to scare Yilin, the moment Calypso said those words, on Calypso's face in the sky, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck down from the billowing black clouds, almost flashing next to Yilin, and exploded Yilin's eardrums. Buzzing. Yilin sat proudly on Nightmare's seat, fearless. "When did I promise you?" Calypso kindly reminded, "Damn pirate, don't forget that you have signed a contract with this god. Once you violate it, you will be subject to a terrible curse. Give me the trident, and I will fulfill your wish. You become the greatest pirate in the sea, and you will be omnipotent. All the wealth on the sea will belong to you." Calypso was obviously in a hurry and even forgot about Yilin's identity as an outsider. Or maybe she has some misunderstanding about outsiders. This kind of empty promise with coercion and inducement can come with just opening one's mouth. If you are so awesome, why don't you go to heaven? Yilin was wearing a mask, and her original angry emotions were still hidden, but when she heard the sentence, Yilin figured everything out and laughed unscrupulously. Her laughter looked like a villain. "Ha ha ha, when did I promise to bring you the trident?" After laughing for a while, Yilin suddenly felt that this kind of laughter was a bit unlucky, so she immediately stopped and regained her composure. In mid-air, the ferocious face suddenly became stunned. In order to convince Calypso to work next time, Yilin smiled and told the cruel truth: "I just promised two things. First, kill the devil as much as possible, and second, find the trident." When did I say that I would give you the trident you found?" Puff. There was a sudden explosion in the sky. It looked like spitting blood, but also like farting. Because Calypso now uses the weather to simulate pronunciation, many of the sounds are purely made up in his head. Yilin thought it was more, and Calypso was so angry that he let out a breath. The clouds rolled in again for a while. Suddenly. "Ha ha ha, I expected you to go back on your word. Damn pirates. Over the years, the style of you people has not changed at all. Even you outsiders." The waves suppressed by the trident surged slightly again. And just in front of Yilin, a mini whirlpool suddenly appeared. In the center of the whirlpool, a sea current seemed to be alive, sweeping up. The sea current formed a slowly flowing pillar, appearing in front of Yilin. In that current, there was a familiar figure. It's Ruth. Ruth was completely submerged in the current, and Calypso seemed to be afraid of drowning her. After Ruth appeared, the current surged and released Ruth's face. Cough cough cough. After Ruth's face was revealed, she couldn't help but cough wildly, coughing up all the seawater that had entered her lungs. After coughing for more than 10 seconds, Ruth's bloodshot eyes slowly opened. In those eyes, there was a third part of fatigue, a third part of doubt, a third part of fear, and a deeply hidden joy of meeting Yilin again. Yilin's face was expressionless and she didn't speak. "Just raise your head, one person, one god, across the void, one is looking down, the other is looking up, looking at each other from a distance." Calypso laughed proudly. "This is your precious woman. The trident has no effect on humans. Otherwise, the damn pirate back then would not have broken the trident. Hand over the trident, otherwise, the sea will become a graveyard for all of you." Ruth was actually confused deep down. She had clearly just made up her mind on the boat and was about to abandon this deep and intense forbidden love, and was about to turn the boat around and escape, but she was brought back to the captain in the blink of an eye. Why is there a face in the sky? What kind of monster is that? That ugly guy in the sky is threatening my captain? It has to be said that although Ruth's brain circuit was a little faulty, she figured out the current situation clearly in just a few seconds. 1. She was caught. 2. The captain was threatened. 3. The ugly thing in the sky used her to threaten the captain. Ruth also saw clearly the trident held tightly in Yilin's hand. It was handsome, cool, and very feminine. After a moment of silence, Ruth sighed quietly, "My captain." After speaking, Ruth didn't know what to say, so she just remained silent. Yilin smiled slightly, and behind the mask, his blue eyes showed a strange look. "You should know very well that I will not save you at the cost of the trident, right?" Ruth was stunned. But after a moment, she suddenly realized and laughed. His bloodshot eyes even burst into tears with laughter. "Yes, my captain, according to the pirate code, any lone pirate dash." After a pause, Yilin and Ruth looked at each other and said at the same time, "Life or death is destined." "My captain, you are finally the most competent pirate captain." Ruth closed her eyes contentedly, with a look of relief on her face. Yilin raised his trident, and in an instant, he broke away from the night dire and jumped into the air. Almost at the same time as Yilin jumped up, a strong current rolled up, just under Yilin's feet. Yilin stepped on the wave, held a trident, soared into the air, and reached mid-air. At this moment, he seemed to be the king of the sea and a god. Seeing this scene, Calypso was already so frightened that he forgot about her for a while. This damn pirate dares to disobey the gods. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 229. Sea of Mist. Gods, humans, ghosts, monsters, and dogs are all on show. The Iron Demon, the three-headed dog of hell, the ugly sea monster, the undead pirate, the terrifying face in the sky, and the skeleton gentleman who controls the sea currents and stands in the void. Ruth felt very stressed, so scared. Calypso gave up the idea of actively asking Yilin to hand over the trident the moment she witnessed Yilin begin to use the power of the trident to control the ocean currents. This human is using the power of Poseidon. Damn it! Damn pirates! Boom boom boom. In the sky, angry thunder rolled. The calm sea was once again stirred up by Calypso's anger. The fog has long since dissipated. Against the backdrop of the sky, not even a ray of light is reflected from the turbulent sea. The entire sea is as dark as ink. Damn pirates! Calypso is in the sky, roaring like thunder. At this moment, she didn't care about maintaining the fame of the gods, so she broke her face without hesitation, manipulated the sea, and launched a terrifying attack on Yilin. At the moment of Calypso's rage, the surrounding air shook wildly, and tornadoes appeared out of thin air, sweeping up the sea water and turning it into 4 terrifying torrents that connected with the sky. From 4 directions, they rushed towards Yi in the air. Rin strangled him. Yilin was in an indescribable state at this time. Legendary equipment, even if it is broken, rotten, or patched, is still legendary after all. What is a legend? Even just equipment can create a legend. This is a legend. Yilin has seen a lot of epic level equipment and props in her past and present lives. Although epic equipment has superior attributes, it cannot exceed a certain limit and cannot be completely unreasonable. But legendary equipment can be unreasonable. Even if the trident Yilin is holding tightly in her hand is a tattered legend that has been broken and then glued back together, Even if it is just a key legendary equipment deliberately set up to survive the plot, it cannot bring her out of this trial world and back to reality. Zeke is making waves, but no matter what, a legend is a legend. At this moment, Yulin is a legend. I am a legend. The trident seems to have become some kind of medium, allowing Yulin to clearly feel every breeze, every cloud, every subtle current in the sea through the trident, and everything about the sea. It's in the chest, and it's in the hands. It felt to him like he was originally playing a very hardcore first-person game, but suddenly he stopped playing it, turned on God's perspective, could see the entire map clearly, and turned on the console to modify everything. Haha, cheating or something is surprising. Calypso. Yulin smiled, and in front of 4 hurricanes that were enough to tear apart more than a dozen queen ships, she stretched out her trident and pointed at Calypso in the air. The 4 hurricanes broke away from Calypso's control in an instant, spiraling directly into the sky and rolling up towards the ugly face in the sky. Hiss! The wind roared, and the 4 hurricanes merged into one, turning into a large hurricane with more terrifying power. Like a giant cannon that pierced the sky, it instantly penetrated Calypso in the sky. Yulin waved the trident again to disperse the hurricane, leaving only a huge hole in the dark clouds. The scene was extremely horrifying. The hurricane that swept through the sky and was mixed with ocean currents, after being dispersed by Yulin, turned into torrential rain and fell on the sea area. But when the heavy rain was about to fall on Yulin, it seemed to fall on an invisible cover, completely isolating Yulin. The clothes on Yulin's body were not stained by water, and were as new as ever, full of style. As the power is consumed, the durability of the trident also decreases. Obviously, this state cannot last for long, so in order to make this state last longer, Yulin clenched the trident as moderately as possible and did not dare to dance randomly. After being slapped in the face by Yulin, Calypso fell completely silent, as if he was frightened by Yulin and did not dare to move rashly. In the distance, 3 huge monsters like the 3-headed Hell Dog, Sea Monster, and Demon King transformed by Goza were still fighting. Obviously, the Demon King's steel body was unable to do anything to Calypso even when his power was at its peak. After all, the predecessor of the Demon King was a giant battleship that could withstand any wind and waves. In addition, the Demon King did not need human power to move and was not afraid of any wind and waves. Calypso could not do anything to the Demon King. Therefore, when Calypso signed the contract, while longing for the trident, he took the Demon King with him to see if Yulin, as an outsider, could destroy that Demon King. Yulin speculated that the reason why so many scientific and unscientific products were born in this medieval-style Caribbean was probably all because of that governor. Like a butterfly that disrupted history, the various things that governor did changed the world beyond recognition. Want to escape? Can you escape? Yulin, who had everything under control, noticed Calypso's movements and smiled slightly. With the legendary weapon in hand, Yulin felt like she had control over the sea area. The trident is the source of all curses. God. Calypso, are you really not ashamed? No wonder old Gibbs used the adjective cunning and despicable when he mentioned your name. It seems that everyone's evaluation of you is surprisingly unanimous. Old Gibbs. Calypso. After finishing speaking, a few seconds later, Yulin pointed his trident at the sea in the distance with bright eyes. Actually, you are not a god at all. Calypso, the real you is nothing more than a curse. It is precisely because you are the embodiment of the curse that you tried every means to get the trident. You want to use the power of the trident to break the curse on you and make you a truly unrestrained existence. Get out of here, Calypso. Invisible power surged out from the trident. Where the trident pointed, the sea surface instantly boiled inexplicably, and gurgling bubbles gushed out from the depths of the seabed. And a few seconds later, under the control of the trident, a giantess as tall as a demon king, completely composed of sea water, with a bumpy figure, broke out of the sea. In an instant, perhaps because a large amount of sea water was sucked away in a short period of time, everything was sucked into a terrifying whirlpool at the feet of the giantess of the sea. The giantess stood in the center of the whirlpool, the figure without facial features. His face was staring straight at where Yilin was, full of resentment. Go. In these few operations, Yilin became more familiar with the feeling of cheating while using the god's perspective, and she became even more comfortable using the trident. No damn pirates! The giantess, transformed by Calypso, let out a shrill roar, immediately raised her arms and threw herself at the Demon King. The battle between monsters and Demon Kings has another monster. A monster named Calypso. Calypso, Emperor Wang, and the sea monster, with various moods and in their own ways, went to attack the Demon King. The Demon King's steel body is really terrifying, but under the attack of the same level of stature, there are many scars on the iron plate. After Calypso joins, Wang Tiandi and the sea monster are even more comfortable in their dark tricks. In the blink of an eye, with the cooperation of Wang Tiandi and Zhao Xin Chen, the sea monster actually pulled the giant chain anchor out of the Demon King's body. Kakaka. Goza looks like a dog, but he is actually a dog. Seeing that the situation is good, he no longer hides his strength. This is an experience card with a time limit. When the time is up, it will have to change back to its original shape. It will be difficult to cause too much harm to the Demon King. After all, the size difference between the dog and the devil is too big. The surrounding ghost ships had already fired all their shells, but for some unknown reason, after all the shells were exhausted, all the ghost ships took advantage of the opportunity between the attacks of Gozei, Calypso, and the sea monster to launch attacks on the Demon King's legs at the same time. A suicide attack, directly involving people and ships, desperately crashing into the Demon King's legs. Kakaka. The Demon King's legs suffered a suicidal violent impact, and his huge body suddenly swayed. The balance that was originally floating steadily on the sea was broken by several ghost ships. Woof! The three heads of the trial version of the three-headed hell dog opened its bloody mouth at the same time. Legend has it that there are 3 heads of hell dogs, each with different powers. One mouth spits out lava, one mouth spits out ice, and one mouth spits out venom that corrodes everything. Different colors of saliva spurted out from the three-headed dog's mouth, instantly smearing the devil's face. Chi chi chi. Dark green smoke rose from the face of the Demon King, who was confused, and a painful cry came from the electronic synthesized sound. The three-headed dog that Goza transformed into used up his last strength, clapped his hands, and the whole dog jumped high, and the 3 heads hit the Demon King's chest at the same time. Although the height of Goza is far less than that of Goza, he can barely jump enough. The Demon King, who was about to lose his balance, finally could no longer stand firmly on the sea surface under Wang Tiandi's crazy output without any strokes. His huge body swayed suddenly and fell backwards. The devil finally fell. After using up his last strength, Goza's hell 3-headed dog experience card time has expired. His hair is curled up, his expression is sluggish, and he quickly shrinks to his original appearance in the air, so small that he cannot be recognized from a distance. The dog is gone. Ah no, the output is complete. Calypso turned into a giantess and yelled madly, but she was also the incarnation of a curse and had to be controlled by the trident in Yilin's hand. What's more, Yilin was so skillful at the moment that she used the trident to the power is almost brought to its extreme. Extreme. Yilin checked the properties of the trident again. Especially the durability column. According to the normal rhythm, this kind of output is absolutely impossible to last until the end. This durability setting is probably just right. In that case, Yilin's eyes narrowed, and suddenly, the trident trembled crazily in Yilin's palm, and all the cracks creaked, as if it was overwhelmed. At last. Hiss. The waves rolled up again, the surrounding air vibrated again, and hurricanes danced under Yilin's control. But this time it was not a tornado. Yilin was manipulating the ocean currents, frantically activating the last power of the trident, changing the shape of countless ocean currents. I saw the overwhelming sea currents, each current becoming thinner and thinner, as thin as paper. Then, each sea current vibrated crazily with a frequency that was difficult to discern with the naked eye. Under the high-frequency vibration of the sea current, it seemed that the entire sea was vibrating with it, and the scenery in front of him also produced countless subtle after-images. Taste the high-frequency vibrating water jet. Yilin raised his trident. Water jets spurted towards the fallen Demon King. The cutting range of the water jet even covers Calypso and the sea monster Zhao Xingchen. Isn't it a normal operation to use AoE ultimate skills to kill monsters? The movement made by Yilin was not small. At this moment, Calypso and Zhao Xingchen reacted at the same time and let out a scream at the same time. Calypso, damn pirates, no dash. Sea monster Zhao Xingchen, Click. When Yilin was in high spirits. The trident was broken. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 230. With the trident in his hand, Yilin can control everything in the sea. But in theory, the more complex the operation, the faster the durability seems to be consumed. Just like when Li Chang'e was beaten under the tower, the more fists and knives he received, the faster the durability of the suit fell off. It was the same reason. The power of water is unfathomable. Like Calypso, uncreative natural disasters like whirlpools, hurricanes, and ocean currents may come and go. For humans, they may be extremely lethal, but for the rough-skinned Demon King with a body of steel, but it's not painful or itchy. As a ship, even if it is swept to the bottom of the sea, it can float up quickly. The Demon King's ship seems to possess a certain degree of intelligence and has been wandering in the sea, avoiding everyone's sight, indicating that there is something it is afraid of in this sea. For example, deep sea. If Yilin becomes the king of the sea, he will definitely use the power of the Sea King to drag him into the deep sea. Even with the water pressure of the vast deep sea, he can crush the devil to death. Unfortunately, Calypso is not imaginative enough. And now, Yilin used the power of the trident to transform into the king of the sea. He was like a legend. He controlled the water flow and simulated a high-frequency vibrating water jet. With the terrifying cutting power, he mercilessly struck at the struggling people from various angles and postures. The three monsters cut through. The giantess body, now condensed by Calypso, was originally transformed by sea water, and seemed to be immune to physical damage. The water knife penetrated Calypso's body instantly, leaving no trace. But Zhao Xingchen was different. He transformed into a sea monster, with flesh and blood. The water knife struck and instantly cut off all the tentacles of Zhao Xingchen's sea monster. Even the hideous and ugly sea monster's head was neatly cut into pieces. Strangling. The devil has fallen. The power of the water knife, after smoothly passing through Calypso and Zhao Xingchen, continued unabated, vibrating at a frequency that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye, leaving criss-crossing wounds on the Demon King's black steel body. In Yilin's hand, the trident once again made an overwhelming crisp sound. Come again. Yilin's expression remained unchanged, and she once again activated the power of the trident. Countless currents surged up in the surrounding sea area, turning into a curtain of high-frequency vibrating water jets, mercilessly cutting the bodies of Zhao Xingchen and the Demon King. At this moment, Yilin holds the trident, as if he is the king of the sea. The king of the sea who controls the power of Poseidon. Click. Finally, Yilin let go of her hand, and the vast power suddenly dissipated without a trace as the trident shattered. No, I don't. Damn it. How could you dash? Calypso, who was clearly not harmed by the water jet, screamed in the saddest voice. The trident was completely shattered. Durability reset to 0. This legendary piece of equipment that controlled the power of the ocean and was responsible for the source of all curses finally completed its mission and was shattered again. This time, it was broken more completely than it was years ago, completely shattered and unable to stick together again. Poseidon's trident completely disappeared from this world. At the same time, when the trident was broken, there seemed to be some mysterious existence connected to the trident, which suddenly collapsed. After the giantess transformed by Calypso let out a shrill scream, her body transformed from sea water froze on the sea. The sea monster Zhao Xin had the same reaction. His ugly body, covered with scars and without any intact parts, was also stiff in front of the Demon King, trembling crazily, as if having a convulsion. Yilin was not surprised by this scene. Just like what Jack did back then, when Poseidon's trident is broken, all the curses on the sea will be completely eliminated as the power of the sea god disappears. Including Calypso and Zhao Xin. Not to mention Zhao Xin, the existence of Calypso is a living curse, or the incarnation of the curse. If the trident exists, she exists. If the trident disappears, it means that Calypso disappear. From this moment on, there is no longer Calypso claiming to be a god in the world, nor is there a curse named Calypso. Chi. Yilin and Gu Tianqing both had bursts of black smoke shooting out from their bodies at the same time. The curse on Yilin's body also disappeared like clouds of smoke as the trident was shattered. Ah, this sea no longer hates women. Very nice. A searing pain came from within his body. Yilin, who had lost his trident, fell from mid-air in a slightly embarrassed state. The moment he landed on the sea, 8% of his health was lost due to the impact. Another place. Gu Tianqing was almost completely shrouded in thick black smoke. He covered his heart in pain, with black blood flowing out of his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, and his face was hideous. The sea monster Zhao Xingqian's body was covered with abscesses, and pieces of flesh and blood were peeling off. Even the sea monster's head and half of Nicholas Zhao's body were emitting thick black smoke. Zhao Xin cried bitterly amid the rapidly festering flesh and blood. Tears. The huge sea monster's body quickly disintegrated and shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. On her deathbed, Calypso also understood that her disappearance was inevitable. Suddenly, the rapidly melting giantess suddenly turned her head and looked at Yilin floating on the sea. And just when Calypso looked this way, Yilin suddenly felt a chill running down her spine. It was as if the face made entirely of seawater really had a pair of eyes filled with resentment, falling on him across the void. Calypso used the last of his strength to whisper softly. "Outsider, I curse you. No matter where you go, no matter where you are, no matter what time and space you are in, I, Calypso, will curse you with my life. Curse your body to wither like a corpse and rot like a sea monster. I, Calypso, curse your soul. Day and night, you will be haunted by nightmares. You will encounter the most tragic misfortune. You cannot escape, you escape. But you can't escape." Yilin's pupils shrank suddenly. Calypso's voice echoed between heaven and earth, and the vicious curse, like a demonic sound, lingered in Yilin's ears. How can it be? Didn't the curse disappear when the trident was shattered? What curse did Calypso use? And is there any need to curse like Alice? I, Elizabeth Lynn, didn't do anything to you. Hiss. As Calypso completely disappeared, Yilin suddenly had the illusion that his whole body was soaked in slippery and cold mucus, and as if he was bound to the depths of the ocean floor, with the surrounding cold sea water filling every pore of his body. It was so oppressive that Yilin could hardly breathe. This is Calypso's curse. Amid Calypso's spiteful voice, Yilin's spirit was in a trance for a moment. When he came to his senses again, Calypso and the sea monster had disappeared from the sea level. On the sea in the distance, there was only one dog. His hair was soaked. He was quickly crawling in the standard dog crawling style, with his forepaws moving rapidly, as if equipped with a small electric motor, and he was rushing towards the direction of Yilin. "Come swim." A small and simple prompt appeared in front of Yilin's eyes. "Successfully sealed Calypso." That is to say, there is still, the Demon King. After Yilin and Gu Tianqing endured the pain of the curse being dispelled, they received prompts from the tower at the same time. Now, at this final stage, due to Gu Tianqing's saucy operation, there is no longer any distinction between camps. The only mission of all the apostles in this world is to seal Calypso and completely kill the Demon King. Calypso is cursed and cannot be killed, but as for the Demon King, since the word kill is used, it proves that the Demon King has a health value and can be completely killed. All red names are strange. As long as there is a health bar, there is always a way to kill. Huhuutsitsai. There were bursts of chaotic noises coming from the place where the Demon King fell. The water jet formation that Yilin created before the trident was completely shattered, coupled with the output of Calypso, Zhao Xin Chen, Sea Monster, and Guzi in turn, caused serious trauma to the Demon King. At this moment, the so-called Demon King could no longer produce a normal tone. His armor was in tatters and almost no part of it was intact. The Demon King's head and chest, where the dog had drooled over his face, showed serious symptoms. Due to corrosion, the entire head was missing a piece, and countless weird parts were exposed, spraying sparks of electricity out of the head. However, no matter how miserable the devil is at the moment, he is still alive. The health points have not been cleared yet. The devil is not dead yet. The main mission has not yet been completed. Call. Yilin took a long breath. Sure enough, although the development of things was slightly different from what he had originally imagined, in the end, the apostle still had to do it himself to give the Demon King the final stab in the back. This is the ultimate difficulty of this main mission. Yilin quickly mounted Nightmare. Night Dire is well fed. As an alternative apocalypse mount, Night Dire seemed to be aware of the solemnity of the surrounding atmosphere, or felt the owner's emotions. When Yilin slowly turned the throttle, a roaring exhaust sound was emitted from behind, which was very domineering. Yilin always felt that there was a faint aroma of wine in the exhaust emitted by Night Dire, which was a bit strange. Yilin. After careful identification, Yilin was speechless for a moment. It really smells like alcohol. Far away. The devil has risen again. Yilin had no time to think about whether it was reasonable and scientific to emit alcohol from the exhaust. At this time, the Demon King was in a miserable posture. The giant anchor and arms were torn off from the body. The part of the chest that resembled a cockpit seemed to be composed of many spheres. There was a little red light there, faintly with a certain rhythm. Flashing, just like the breathing light prompt when the energy of some device is exhausted. Ah, this is really a thoughtful reminder. Yilin was a little surprised and silently took out the knife. The dog had swam behind Yilin, spreading its paws with a regretful expression, as if to indicate that there was nothing he could do. Gu Tianqing opened his mouth and spit out a mouthful of blood. Yilin was speechless. All of these teammates were disabled? He was complaining crazily in his heart, but he glanced at the remaining spiritual energy value and could only condense the telepathy needle and insert it into his head. After using the telepathy needle, Yilin had entered an activated state. As for going to the next level, the so-called double happiness, in the role-playing mode, without the self-healing effect of the Dionysus factor, Yilin would not dare to try it. It can range from torn tendons to severe injuries, which is not just talk. In the activated state, Yilin also activated rarely used abilities. Morphological change. But this time, it wasn't from Nai Hongxiu's bloodshot blood, but from Bai Xiaoai's morphological change. In an instant, the blood jasmine in Yilin's hand surged at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the short sword turned into a giant blood-colored blade, almost 2 meters long, like a severing sword. The terrifying blade alone made people shudder. One person, one car, and a big sword, riding on the waves. With the sound of billowing exhaust, Yulin and Nightmare merged into one, and instantly turned into a black stream of light, rushing forward.